and also his mother Jamie with us as well. So thank you for coming and being a part of it. Speech?
I do have a question. Did he try to bribe votes from your family?
That's all over with, right?
Doesn't matter now.
Sure. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Yes,
Can I go ahead and introduce?
yeah, go ahead, that's what.
This is our new county attorney, Dana Kerr. These are our council members, Chuck Hess, Nick Robertson, Amy K. Spear, Burl Keith, Holly Chesser, Andy Wood, Anton Neff, and Bethany. And these are most of the department heads are in here tonight, so welcome him aboard, and he's gonna be reaching out to everybody, I'm sure, over the next several weeks, and I can give you his contact information if you, I'll just send it out to everybody, but welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, well, we are not going to do the approval minutes, is that right, Sheila?
Correct.
They are not here yet. We'll have to do that at our December meeting. Okay, our financial review.
I'm sorry. There, you have the monthly reports, I think they're on the very bottom of your piles. You have the one ending October the 31st, because I'm required to give it to you. You also have one from today, ending that shows what your financial balances are. Generally, we have a review from Jim, and we're gonna miss that. And as he's presenting things, we'll try to start kind of doing his, how he breaks down what the revenue is for the different funds, just kind of an easy list and fill it in, just because it does make it an easy guide for everybody. And I definitely would like to finish out November and December, because he's given us everything for the rest of the months, so.
So Sheila, when is settlement targeted?
Wednesday is settlement date, and hopefully, at the end of the day, the next day, we'll be able to give you the numbers that were brought in and where they're appropriated at. And Lau's holding a meeting on Thursday that we have a couple staff people that are going, and I know the treasurer and them are going, but hopefully by end of Wednesday, early Thursday, we'll be able to give you those numbers. I'll email them out to everybody, but we had a good collection season.
Okay. All right, on to our 2023 budget review. As, let's see, you emailed out the 1782 notice to everybody, but department heads have not gotten that right. Is that correct?
So you had, in the initial packet that I mailed out last Wednesday, I sent you copies of what was sent to the state with the budget itself, as you guys approved it at your October 27th meeting, with all of the minor changes and exact figures. However, since then, on Friday, the state DLGF sent our 1782 notices, which is the approved budgets for 2023. You have to make decisions tonight. If there's any changes, any additions, corrections, whatever you make a motion to do tonight, we have to submit them to DLGF by the 21st, which is your top sheet of paper that you had that looks like this. This is your 1782 notice. All departments' requests were approved. There was no cuts. The only cuts that did come were in the tax rates, and those are based on the assessed values that were turned in. You can change a few of them, Jim, which is on one of the second or third page down, you have a copy. It was with the 1782 notice. He had given you the last 5 years of what the tax rates were versus what the tax rates are listed on your 1782. Those are also changes that you can make if you want to reduce or move from one fund to the other. The funds that were approved where these rates are at are your levied funds. So if you cut one, you're giving more to the other, or if you increase one, you're gonna have to reduce another. There is some flexibility from what was originally turned in versus what is on here, but the state is the one that made these reductions in the tax cuts based. So if you change it, we have to submit it back to them, and there's a possibility that they will say no, or there's a possibility that they'll say they'll accept the changes that are requested. And that has to be done by next Monday.
So, one of the things, if I can jump right in on the sheriff's budget that I had noticed, where is the sheriff at? Is he outside? Sheriff, I was just gonna let you know, there's just a small financial difference on wage totals. I figured them, I don't know if we wanna incorporate that in, or if it's not significant enough, it's about a $2,500 item. Whenever we have, new hires that are already law enforcement academy graduates, we always advance the longevity. I noticed for two of ours, the formula was not picking that up quite the normal way. And so I did the math, and it's about $2,500 cost. That's including the FICA that would come into play. There's no perf because they're deputies. So I don't know if we want to worry about that, or just with normal employee changes throughout the year, that kind of money might just be absorbed in somewhere. I don't know what your preference might be.
It could, I think it'll probably play itself out.
Okay,
To be honest with you, I think we're gonna have enough money left over at the end of the year to play itself out.
okay. I just want to make sure you're aware of it. So if there's any kind of difference later, it's been accounted for. So.
And those can also have additional appropriations in 2023 if it's needed, if it's full staffed, and that budget was originally advertised at the $3,250,000, and it was whittled down to this $3,186,000. So there's still that playroom there if you do decide you wanna go ahead and add the 2,500 back, it was advertised. But I think it'll play itself out in the turnover too.
And at the end of the year, if we have that left over, we can go ahead and make that appropriation, cover that cost immediately.
The only other thing that I had, which was a little concerning, is when you look at the ending cash balances at the end of '23, the health department is only gonna be $2,583. I don't know if you noticed that.
Or
Um,
159?
Yeah, and that's very thin. And so I'm wondering if it'd be worth a little, it wouldn't take much, but a little bit of a rate shift to make sure that that ending cash balance is a bit stronger than that. I mean, I'd be willing to entertain that. I don't know exactly how much of the rate is needed to get it to, 20,000 or whatever, but.
You can also, I mean, we don't have to pull everything from the 1159. We had moved Teresa over there
Uh-huh.
to work on the 1168 one, to keep our cash balance up there. We can actually move her whole salary to 4911 if we have to.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can do whatever we need to do there.
Reassessment was also a very thin amount. It was $15,400, and that's a much bigger budget. So, there's that. Highway, even though highway has a positive balance, it was about $180,000 drop over the year from the ending cash balance we project this year versus the ending cash balance we project at the end of '23. So even though the budgets are acceptable and the rates are good, we still need to pay close attention to the cash balances and the direction those head, because, $180,000 hit is not sustainable if you keep it going. So we want to be careful not to spread ourselves too thin. The year that we had that summer flood and we had to dump $500,000 into gravel and repairs, that blew up our budget bad. Luckily, we had cash at the time to absorb that, but if we're looking at that kind of a reduction over the next 12 months, and we have an event like that, or we have maybe some bad snow events, then we're not gonna have any money in highway. So that's a concern to me as well, and whether or not there needs to be some adjustments or shoring up to make that a little bit better at the end of '23. But other than that, the EMS general shift's good, and the other funds, they seem to be pretty solid, so.
So back to the health, you think that, I guess because of you feel like you're safe as far as your budget?
So what you're saying is towards the latter half of '23, if you find that things are going a little bit in the wrong direction, that you could change some things up to free up some money and keep that cash balance from getting to $2,500.
Which I don't
Essentially.
know, and this is a question for Sheila, I don't know if we can pull that money from our 4911 and put it in,
You can transfer.
can I give money to that fund?
You could transfer with approval from fund to fund on those amounts, or you can just pay her directly or the position directly from the 4911 fund and just leave that. This is the first time this has been offered or submitted with a new full-time position in there, and the state approving it is a good thing, because eventually, 2, maybe 3 years down the road, their funds, as far as all the grant funds and everything that they're getting, are gonna dry up, so it is already gonna be established in there for that fourth position, which is gonna be needed at that time if their funds go away, so. But she can pull anything that's being paid out of there and put it in any of the other funds, and it just would build that cash balance, which is probably the wiser thing to do, and then whenever June numbers come in, you can kind of gauge and see where you're at, but I would say if you can build it to 40,000-50,000, it'd be good.
And generally, the discussion at the state level, there's a lot of talk now about
Right.
health in Indiana and how that can be restructured. And there may be additional resources and funding and things that come to play here with the next session of the legislature.
Yeah, they announced today that our core values as a health department are about to change, and they're gonna offer us more funding in our, local health maintenance, and our tobacco grant will go away.
There are, there's several things that would kind of tie into our 2023 budget review. Anton and I have kind of discussed the raises, and also with the 112,000 that we had set aside in the council budget, that possibly for raises as well. Do you want to discuss that here, or?
We certainly can. So the question came up earlier a couple of times in meetings about elected officials. We have a variety of department heads in county government that are paid a certain amount. We have a variety of employees, of course, that are paid varying amounts and that we did make a lot of different adjustments on in places, but the one group that really isn't seeing any particular change is elected officials, and I think Councilman Robertson had brought this up at the last meeting. Is there anything we can do? We can do a number of things, but it's how we get there, I think. And one of the things you could consider is basically increasing the additional amount of the gap to fill for wages by a certain additional percentage. If you remember, when we started the budget hearings process, we had determined that we wanted to take care of about a quarter of the midpoint and get people closer to that point and bring people that weren't up at our low point to that minimum level. And that had a certain cost to it, but we committed to that, and that's baked into our numbers now. But you could entertain some additional filling of that gap and getting closer to the midpoint for people who aren't there already. So there are some departments that are already there or have surpassed it, and they wouldn't be a part of that. But there's other positions that could essentially have additional money increase on the bottom line wage. If you did that, it would also pull in some of the elected officials, because you're getting to that point where then it's generating a difference and making up some of their gap. And I did some of the math. If you take that 12% gap and change it to 26, just as an example, then that starts to touch the auditor, the treasurer, the recorder, those positions with some additional money. Now, it's gonna give more money to other employees, so there'd be additional amounts that they would get too, but you'd start to get into the elected officials at that point. And the cost would be less than the 100 and some thousand that was placed in the council budget and kind of, kept on hold. So it's doable, but, everything's in the details, of course, but it's very feasible to do that if that's something the council wanted to do. And that's just one way of doing it, but, it could be done.
Peggy sent an email to all of us and pointed out some good points that, when there was premium pay, the elected officials, and I'm not concerned with us or commissioners, but I am concerned with like the auditor and the clerk and the, full-time positions where you guys really worked hard but did not get compensated for that. So, you've been overlooked a lot of the time, and I think it's time to, and there's a lot of department heads that are making more than our elected officials as well, so. Does anybody else want to have anything to add on?
Is that something that can be done, that would not have to go to the November 21 deadline next week?
It has to be done tonight. There was $112,600 that was set aside in the council budget in the October 27th meeting, I believe it was, just as an extra. So whether it goes to elected officials or departments, but that motion has to be made to put exact dollar amounts and where to pay that $112,608 from.
Then my follow-up question would be is, do we have an idea of the affected people?
We do. There is a lot of individual cleanup and some confirmation that's needed on some key areas. But generally, by fund, we do know the totals. And of course, it would only go up, not down, obviously, since you're putting more resources towards pay. But, you want to keep in mind that the positions where there are already special considerations made, for instance, the sheriff's department, those would not see any additional at all, because those levels are much higher than even the 26%, as an example. And so it doesn't trigger any additional for those positions, which is
I
maybe a good
understand
thing.
that, but can't we
Right.
separated the departments which wouldn't trigger that?
Oh, yeah, we've got it
Which
down to
departments are those?
we've got it into the employee level detail.
Okay.
Yes,
But
yes.
which departments are they and which levels are they? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you're saying that the sheriff's department is going to be excluded from that because they've already reached that .26 we said earlier. However, I wanna know which departments will get the benefit of getting a raise. So that we have an idea of where we stand.
It's gonna be, it's probably easier to say which ones will not, because there's a smaller group of those.
Okay,
And that would include sheriffs, department jailers and deputies. It would not include the matron, it would not include the admin in the office.
so outside of the sheriff's department, are there any other departments that have already met that point?
Communications, dispatch,
Okay,
there's, a couple of highway, the office staff, we already increased those. The clerk's office, we did some clerk's office adjustments.
Circuit court.
Circuit court would not be in there, because that was increased separately.
Yes.
EMS was already done. With the exception of like EMS, the support position was not a part of that, so that would be affected. Probation officers are already mandated, so that wouldn't be affected there. So that would probably be just a real quick list for you of the ones that would not be involved with any additional funds. Everybody else or every other position would see some additional money, and that would include the elected officials, which is the key. But you know, one position might get an additional $400, another might get another 2,000. So it just depends on how big that gap is that they're at between their current pay level, or the last approved pay level, and then the midpoint that exists for that position.
I think the building department also.
Oh yeah, building
They
is not
already have.
included because they already got an adjustment as
So-
well as the admin there.
And Tom, what was the grand total on these positions, based on the 112 that we set aside?
Cost wise, well, if you did the 26%, the cost to the general fund would be about $53,000. And I would say if you went to 30%, it probably would be,
no, we're talking
Probably
about
another
the same
25.
schedule back at the budget hearings, 30% of the.
yes,
margin.
that number, yes. So we
I just wanna
chose
make sure we get
12,
clear,
yeah.
Because I don't want people thinking we're gonna have 26.
Correct, yeah, it's the gap, it's the gap. So, 12, instead of 12, it'd be 26, or it'd be 30, whatever we set would be where the new numbers would fall.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you. No, I was pointing out you.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna say, I think, as to reinvent the wheel, I really believe we had already looked at all the offices individually, and I really would think that we need to address the elected officials' pay, because this is where I think we're falling short. We've had a couple of caucuses, one for assessor, one for auditor. Couldn't even get anybody else to run for auditor. We was fortunate to get an assessor that is hopefully will be qualified by the time he needs to be. Now, what's happening is it because we're not paying these elected officials? We're at 38,000 for most of them, and that might be good pay, I don't know. But I know there's a lot of other jobs out there that pay better, and I know the responsibility, being commissioner, being clerk, now sitting on the council for as many years as I have. I realize that there's a lot of responsibility to these elected officials. I know the auditor is probably understaffed and overworked. for some of the other offices that are in the same boat. I would like to address just the elected officials tonight, and if we don't want to address the commissioners and the council, okay? But I would like to make a motion then that, I'm gonna make a motion that we include all the elected officials at a 6% rate of pay increase. And I don't know what that would mean, it'd be probably $22,300 for a full-time elected official. Wouldn't be a whole lot for the council or the commissioners, but it would be for the elected official. And I think that's just a starter, but you gotta start somewhere. And I know some of the council did not want to raise, and if they elect to drop the council out, then okay. But I believe if we would go that route, however that would fit into your figures, Anton, whatever percentage you want to put it. Cost of living is about 8.1 or 2%. You know, I believe we need to take a serious look at there out of this $112,000 that we have.
Well, let's put a dollar amount to that. Give me just a minute here. So, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so, if we take the elected officials' totals and we figure 6%. So that would include the assessor, the auditor, the clerk. At the moment, 3 commissioners, coroner, also at the moment, 7 council members, the recorder, the surveyor, and the treasurer. Wouldn't include the sheriff, because that's separate. Prosecutor, judges, those are not even a part of that. I think that takes care of the ones that maybe you're thinking. So the total increase for a 6% on the base would be $18,193. And then you have a, an additional $3,500 for the FICA and the perf that would go with that.
3,500 total for the.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your motion, Nick, and I think we've got a lot more room to help other people, and get folks up. As long as there's still a gap, between us and, or between where people need to be and what the, cost of living right now, I won't vote for anything that includes the council or commissioners, just out of principle, so, but I'm willing to hear another motion after this one.
Anybody else?
Are these, and I'm not picking on anybody, but the surveyor was brought up significantly in the budget hearing. So is this the difference? Is this on top of the bigger increase that position got to begin with? Is
No, because we had given the surveyor a raise in the budget time, so it would not include the surveyor. If we need to add that to the motion, it would not, because I believe the raise that the surveyor got was better than the 5 or 6% that I've asked for.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Under the initial action the council took, the positions of surveyor and coroner did get into the threshold already. And so the surveyor had about a $1,400 increase. The coroner was about $634. So what you're saying is the 6% would be based on the reverted amounts before the action we took during the hearings.
In that case, then, would that shortchange the surveyor, if we just gave 6% in?
Let's take a look real quick. So if you took the original amount, if you took the original amount of pay and then figured 6%, then that would be $500. Whereas currently, where we last left things, it was 1,400. So there's the difference, depending on how you figure it.
My question is, why did we go so much on surveyor and not
So if you remember,
additional money on the corner?
it depends on whatever the midpoint targets are for the position. So you're gonna have a certain varying degree of gap that you have between where someone gets paid or has been paid versus where they need to be. And so when you approve a certain percentage to fill that gap, these are the numbers you come up with to get people where they need to be. They just happen to be a little bit more underpaid than others at the moment. That's why the gap is a little bigger for that percentage. That's part of the reason why you should consider, I think, very carefully doing a bit more of a broader adjustment, because one of the major advantages or points of doing a wage overhaul is to base it on the position and not either the individual or the department. So if that position should be at X and you're not there yet, how do you get there in a fair manner? If you pick individuals and give amounts to some and not to others, you're not rebalancing that, you're not correcting that. So you're gonna have differences that are gonna vary a little bit depending on how much of that gap you fill.
Chuck.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion on the floor to remove the council and the commissioners, and this is my reasoning behind that, is that these positions are paid as a stipend more type of issue, because nobody lives on $500 a month or whatever the commissioners make, $8,000 a year, or whatever. When you get into this level at county politics, it should not be about the money. And, you know, I think it's appropriate that we take them.
I'll go ahead and second that.
I agree. Are there,
But back to Anton's point, I do think that there's, with taking those out, and Chuck,
No, we
I'm right behind
We haven't
you.
voted.
I'm right behind you
Okay.
on the, your sentiment. But, you know, I do feel like there's a lot more capacity here to help move a lot more people within the departments towards where they need to be, based on the estimate that Anton gave a minute ago. So, I mean, I don't care if we consider one and then maybe come back to the other or whatever, but I would like to at least expand on that discussion a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've made a lot of progress in several areas, and I really, but it's not, there's still a lot of unfinished business, and I'd hate to, you know, the last people that I think should have a raise would be us and the commissioners in this process. Now, maybe fair game next year, but as far as currently, with all that we've been through and trying to recalibrate this, I think it's just more appropriate that we don't include ourselves in the mix. Now, if we were to do a bit more of a broader approach and maybe a little more cost resources, as Andy's referring to, where we make sure that everybody else gets their share, then I'd be more inclined to make those adjustments for ourselves, because again, we want to keep things weighted properly across the board. But if you're just looking at picking a certain group of individuals there's just still a lot of unfinished business and I don't think we should give it to ourselves, so.
I've got a question on, how much would, I mean, on an average, I mean, and you don't have to have a specific amount, but on how much would the elected officials get with, Nick's proposal versus what your proposal would be?
It'd be very similar, actually. Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily address Nick's proposal would not necessarily keep the weighted part in mind because you're giving a certain percentage from where they're at currently instead of a percentage of the gap to the midpoint. So you're not addressing that part in the proposal, but as far as raw dollars, if you were to do the 30% that I mentioned earlier, then the net amount that the assessor would get, the clerk, would be very similar, dollar wise. Don't quote me, it's not gonna be perfect, but it would be, either way, it would be significant. I mean, it'd be a worthy, it's not like $10, it'd be a worthy gesture to put the resources towards those positions.
My case in point would be like Don sitting here tonight and the circuit court got their raise and then his folks didn't. I think we've got some work to do there. That said, I'm willing to, did you accept that friendly amendment?
Yes.
I seconded it.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to accept it as a friendly amendment, that's fine, that's good.
Let me back it, actually, let me withdraw my motion.
Even better. Even better.
Yeah, I'll just withdraw my motion. It seemed to be somewhat complicated, so I don't want to mess everything up. So we'll leave it for another motion. Here's the thing that I'm concerned about. The elected officials, you cannot give them a raise at any time, it has to be at this time. And if you don't do it now, they won't have nothing next year. We missed this window of opportunity. Elected officials, you won't have an opportunity next year. That's all I'm saying.
And I think we're gonna wreck it or do something here. So for the sake of the 26% at $53,000, or 30%, and you said that was an extra 25,000?
Yeah, let me go to that real quick. So I'm just gonna throw out some numbers just so you get an idea here, just again, examples. If you use the 30% instead of the 12, so you're working towards that gap, okay, which would be more than, for everybody, would be more than half to the midpoint, which is a little bit more aggressive than we initially had approved. The assessor, not to pick on the assessor, but is Dusty in here? He's not even here, okay. So the assessor's position would see an increase of 2,544, okay? The auditor would be 1,900, because remember, that position already gets paid a little more than the others. Clerk would be 2,800. Treasurer, recorder would be an additional 1,800. The same for the treasurer. So those are reasonable adjustments.
What was the grand total?
And then as far as your general fund cost,
Is this the 26%?
this is 30, yeah.
What was the treasurer's?
18.
18.
And Tom, if we're basing these figures on their base pay, all 5 of these people, other than Sheila, make the same amount of money. How could you give me figures that?
Because remember, this is based on filling the gap to their midpoint. Whatever their midpoint target is for pay.
Bringing their
From that
midpoint.
wage.
Figuring there. So first of all, their midpoints are a little different, they're not all equal as far as positions. But second of all, where they're at in pay now is a little different too. But whatever that difference is, you're filling part of that difference in. In this case, it'd be more than half of that difference. But the cost is gonna vary a little bit by position, if that makes sense.
But I think out of all those offices, and maybe I'm not biased, but I believe the auditor's office is probably the most stressful office there is in the courthouse. She's the hub of the county, really. And so we're only gonna give her $2,200 and give a couple other offices $2,800. And I mean, I'm just rattling on.
And this
but
is
I mean,
all
this
based
is
on
money
the,
people.
this is all based on the wage study that was done, is that?
Well, the midpoint for the auditor is 48,874. The midpoint for the assessor is 48,076.50. So, again, these are based on other counties of similar size and the market. They're really not too much different in the grand scheme of things, right? But they are a little different, and if you already held everybody else to the same targets, then you kind of should hold everybody to those. And that includes elected officials, no different than a deputy in the office or a specialty type position.
So what would that impact the general fund then on the 30%?
So if you did that, it'd be about 85,000.
Your coroner is in the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So there, look at the corner, first of all, thank you all for the auditor comments. I feel I work as hard as all the other elected officials, we are in this together. Some days are more stressful for others, but I appreciate the comments. However, there's other people on here, and just like with the coroner, we've already been told, Angie's already related, I believe Shelley had related too. This is a position that probably needs to go to a full-time position or needs to be considered. They have a hard time finding deputies and they have a hard time finding it, and that $9,000 price tag isn't helping, and we're getting ready to have another caucus, the first week or two in December to reappoint Shelby or if anybody else signs up. So I think that's a position that needs to be considered in this. I think it needs to
It would be.
move up with it, and it is part of the county general fund, but that's.
And that's a good example, I'm gonna bring that up, that particular gap is significantly more than everybody else. And the target for that was 21,000, it's only been at 8 or 9. So yet at 30%, that would be a $7,300 increase for the coroner. So that would be, play into what Sheila was saying, that that gap is so much bigger for that position. And there'd be more funds going towards that to fill that gap.
So is that amount included in that 85,000?
Correct, yeah. And if you opted to change or modify, I'd be more than, when you're applying it to everybody, I'd be more conducive to the council and commissioner adjustments, but again, you could this year waive those and make that up next year or whatever, or do half, but that would then reduce the cost because the 85 includes council and commissioners. So if you backed out half of that or all of that, that would just be a lesser cost to the general fund at that point.
I wanna make a motion that we adjust at the 30% rate for all the positions mentioned, less commissioners and the council.
Motion on the floor, is there a second? I'll second it. For discussion, so tell me what you're thinking.
So here's the monkey wrench in this, is that there's some areas where we're gonna have to go in individually and make sure, cause like highway, they had a certain set level of things that they last proposed that we approved. And some of those were less than the targets in certain areas, if that makes sense. So, I'm not sure how to address that, or, you know what I'm saying?
First of all, I think, that's a budget that we worked on hard with the commissioners, and, we made an earlier proposal in regard, and was approved in, budget hearings, and I have another proposal tonight in regard to the highway department, but when we're talking about the highway budget, highway superintendent and commissioner need to specifically know what we're doing, and, with this proposal tonight, we don't. So I would hate to touch the highway budget tonight, I would rather you hear my proposal.
Yeah, and that's a good example.
Fit.
You're absolutely right, and I'll just give you an example. You know, operators, I think we last approved at 17.5, somewhere in there. But even at the 30%, it's at 17.12. Well, that's weird. The same way we had truck drivers, but then you vacated the truck drivers, so that cost is not in there. Laborers saw the biggest increase, you know, and then there were some positions that may or may not exist, like the assistant superintendent. I think in your proposal we last approved, that didn't exist anymore, but that's still on our books as far as cost projections, and that was a position that was significant, had a significant gap. So I'm not sure how to reconcile that with the moving parts.
So if this 30% isn't what it is, then I'll withdraw my motion as long as you're good with that, because I'm not aware of the caveats.
Personally, I think we need to work on the deal for the highway and see what we can get. If we only got a certain amount to spend, we need to jack with them to see if we're gonna decide if we're gonna get raised or whatever, and then we can go on the elected officials. Cause there's too many things to cross back and forth, and we don't know whether we got the money or not.
Well, in my budget, my people were approved for a raise. I mean, we had that figured in. I spoke to the council president, we had an exodus of people because of higher wage, so we had a presentation tonight to give to you, but, I think it would be better in line to at least talk with us about that before we move forward,
Yeah.
at least out of the highway budget.
It'd probably be good to eliminate those variables, cause that is where, you know, general's one thing, sheriff and EMS aren't a part of this discussion. Some of the other funds are negligible, you know, cost-wise, but highways where there's a lot of moving parts, and
I'm still
where it's gonna get
concerned
tricky.
about the 180,000, you know, shortfall, even with the $3 million budget that was approved by the state. It's still, we don't want your cash balance to go down to nothing.
Yes, but you guys raised that budget. If you go back to the original budget that I presented, there's not that sort of a shortfall. Or there's not that much of a difference.
I think we should take,
What I'm concerned about the raises, if we give the raises that you got on the people that you've got now, and then if you hire more people, how's that gonna fit in your budget? And
Well,
you
one
got-
of the things that we had to do in order to make the plan that I have work, and I will say that this came, not just from, commissioners and council members, this was suggested by a citizen, Mr. Jeff Marks. So we worked with people from the community that made a suggestion. What presentation I have for you tonight would be to vacate 2 positions. And, to give, my people, I believe it's $1.58 an hour raise. I believe we could hire people for that. Then that's also figuring in the raise that was already approved for them that's in my budget. So I'm not keeping the same amount of people, I would be dropping 2. Working with the commissioners, we believe that is a very manageable number. We also think that the number that we're dealing with, when we first started looking, we were talking about dropping 4, but then after, really taking a good look, with, my men and women working, we decided that we would be better off to do 2, but we would make it fit, we would make it fit within the budget. And, in regard to savings, in benefits only, I would be saving somewhere in the neighborhood of $14,000, a little above. Now, one figure that I couldn't work in because, we just didn't have the information, is workman's comp. And Tom, I know we talked with you about that. Workman's comp is based on people, so it should reduce even more than that.
Yeah, the highway department has they're higher cost
Yes.
positions.
So I didn't have the numbers to make the reduction in the dropping the 2 employees and the guys up to these wages. That doesn't include me, it doesn't include my secretarial staff.
Chuck, did you have a question?
Why don't we just take a consensus and just let him make the presentation, and let's set aside the budget review till we're done with him.
Okay.
Then that will give us appropriate thing to make the motion.
Hey Greg, before you go, I just got a question. When you took over, how many positions did you have? It seems like over the past 2 or 3 years, and I wanna make sure my brain's right here. How many actual positions have we taken out of the budget from then till, say, these 2 positions you're talking about now?
We will have taken, 2 out until now, and if the council recalls, we gave a presentation, in order to pay, in order to add people, where we took, wages out of bridge. That
Right.
just did not work, so we vacated those positions. We worked that a year, just didn't work out, may have been 2, so, we dropped that back down. We have, 25 full-time employees. Council, I've had up to 32, but that's with my part-time people. One of the things we've really struggled with is being able to hire part-time people for the summer. Burl and Nick and I have spoke about that. I think we have a wage now figured into our budget in regard to part-time people. We should be able to get folks back in. And either they're seasonal, there are hole patchers, there are brush cutters. And the way we have the budget figured to hire 3 truck drivers and I believe 3 laborers for a period of time, seasonally. And with the approval in the budget, I think we could accomplish that this year.
So what was the number then? The number of the increase, 158 you said?
$1.50, excuse me. It's $1.58 for laborers, the way it figures, and $1.58 for operators.
How many laborers and operators do you have?
What the 158 brings us as far as the wage stuff?
I had a total of,
Okay.
25. And, I'm proposing to drop down to the 23.
So you want us to take out 2 laborers or 2
It would be,
operators, what do you say?
well, the way we figured it, it would be, because of the way we, changed the structure, it would be actually off of truck drivers.
So you
But
want
the
us to
truck
remove,
drivers are now operators, so,
yeah, but didn't we get rid of the truck drivers earlier during the budget hearings?
yeah, they're all operators now.
Okay, they're all operators, so we're not actually cutting any other positions?
No. And I would, tell you that one of these positions I've been unable to fill for 2 years. I've had one of those positions that just, I haven't been able to hire anybody. We were lucky we hired a young man, his first day was today, and he is a CDL driver.
Would you once again read those 2 numbers for operators and for laborers?
Operators would be $1.58 and, no, excuse me, laborers would be $1.58 an hour, and laborers would be $1.58 an hour.
I'd like to move that we, accept this proposal from the highway department, as reasonable and actionable.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Well, is that your proposal? I mean, okay, I didn't know if there was something else to look at or not.
Actually, it's been so long that you all were emailed this information that was prior to, your last council meeting. That was budget only, so, you've all had the spreadsheets for a while.
So, on the colored document,
Yes.
the 2 reds are the ones that you would vacate.
Yes,
So 1 laborer and 1 operator.
yes.
Okay. Just wanna make sure we're good there, it's not 2 operators.
Wait a minute, so we are vacating 2 more positions outside of the truck drivers?
No, that's just what they're called now, excuse me, in the new plan.
Okay,
So yes, it's what you have in the red. And,
okay.
Yeah,
These
so,
are open positions, is that right?
Yes,
No, okay, so nobody gets cut.
right. No, I have 5 open positions right now.
Well, our highway department's thin as it is.
I have 5 open positions.
so yeah, Chuck, we initially vacated all 5 truck driver positions.
I do remember that, I just
Yeah, then we
couldn't believe it
added,
was coming back with trying to vacate 2 more.
right,
No, I'm not.
we added 2 operators and we added we changed hole patcher to labor. So what he's wanting to do is take 2 more out. One of that laborer that got converted, or one of those positions, and then one of those 2 operators that.
Yeah, see, now I'm getting confused because we had already taken stuff out and you're telling me, he's telling me he doesn't want to take 2 more out, but you're telling me 2 more.
He is reducing staff by 2,
By 2,
further than when we last left it.
that is
So
correct,
you are cutting more.
yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were asking.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to, what I'm worried about is we're already shorthanded there. So my question now to you, Greg, is if you are able to hire people, and my guess is you probably will not get to full staff, however, we're already short-staffed. Even at the numbers we set, we're short-staffed. Even if we got hired, we would be short-staffed. So if we take 2 more out, aren't you already undercutting your ability to do the job?
Well, the way I would just speak to the council right now, we had a wind event last week, and I worked guys to the bone. We've got guys that's got 106 hours, is what's working now. We cannot keep asking them to do that. Yes, it is a smaller staff than I have now, but with the ability to hire more people and give the ones that I had a fair wage to keep them. What is happening, I don't wanna say we're headhunted, but I am losing people. I've lost them at a rapid rate to a local Cement company, I have lost them at a rapid rate to the water company. I mean.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm trying to help this out. This is not my point, I'm looking from a managerial position. If you tell me, and I'm using arbitrary numbers here, please do not use these numbers. If I had 10 employees, I just cut 4, so I had 14 originally, and then I only have 6 employees, actual employees, but I am rated for 10, or I'm allowed to have 10 in the budget, and you tell me that we are shorthanded like crazy, but you're okay with 2 more when we should be at 10, that's the final low number. I'm worried about if we can actually get people in, to have 10, to have a proper functioning department. I'm not comfortable cutting 2 more positions. I mean, at this point, if we have 10, we're gonna have those 10 funded in the positions, okay? So it's not an issue of not having money there, this is not even what that's talking about, I'm talking about manpower. You have 60% of your department, and they're running 110% of what's going on. But that 110% is because you're missing 40% of the original people. So if you're able to get 4 more, that's gonna make jobs straight across much easier. However, you're saying, go ahead and cut another 2 positions, that leaves you with 8. You're now at 60%, you need 100% efficiency or 110 above that. You're sitting at 100 is 10 people, and you're now 2 down less, which means you're only coming up 50% to your target goal, which is, and I know that's a lot of math here real quick, fast folks, but that's what you're telling me. I don't wanna cut any more parts out of the highway department.
Well, then guys, you're gonna have to come up with some money to pay some people.
Well, that's the point I'm
And
making.
here's the point I'm gonna make tonight. We need to come up with a solution, and it needs to happen quick, or the trees being cut in the middle of the night when the EMS can't get through and the sheriff can't get through, wherever Sam's at, is not the highway department's fault, it's because they cannot be, I don't have the people to do it.
I get that. I'm for you here, boss. I'm trying to get you the $1.58, $1.60. You're missing my point. I don't wanna cut 2 more positions out of the highway department to make this happen. When this is fully feasible, we can make this happen without cutting those positions. That's what I'm trying to point out to the council.
Well, then how do we do that?
We approved what I just made a motion for. At least that's more money, right? And then you could, when you send out an advertisement for the positions, those positions will show up as a higher paid as well, right?
So when was your last salary increase? It wasn't that long ago.
19,
19?
we got
What
another
were you
round
gonna
of 19.
Okay, the other thing is budget capacity. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. What was the numbers you threw out for highway?
In terms of,
On the 1782, there was a question about
oh,
180.
cash balance. So, and let me make sure I've got my numbers right here. Let's see here, that was.
So, you know, an approximate amount between the 3 million that was advertised and approved versus what you originally had.
Yes.
Do you think that $1.58 would fit in there and not go above that 3 million?
It
That
was-
is your
That's
goal.
the numbers I used.
So he's offering up 2 to 3 million that's already there with those amounts.
And that's without cutting the labor and the other parts. Is that correct? Because I don't wanna see that department cut any further.
No.
Thank you.
It is not.
So the base rate of pay that we last left operators at was 17.838.
Yes.
If we add 1.583, that's gonna make a new pay amount of 19.421.
Yes.
Laborers, we last left at 15.4. An additional 1.588 would bring that to 16.988.
Yes.
wanna make sure we're clear on that. And then, as far as cost, I mean, if you give me, just a little bit of time, we can get an exact budget number based on that, but the question goes back to those two positions. If you were to pursue this, would you not eliminate the two positions that he's proposing? Remember,
But I'm gonna go with it.
well, and I'm asking the question to Councilman Hess, cause he will kinda
Okay,
wants
but
to
see,
keep
but
them.
you're not, but everybody's not understanding what
Yeah.
I'm saying, you're already behind. So if you cut these positions, and you only come up to 80% of what the goal is, you're still gonna be behind. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you're comfortable with doing it, fine, Greg, that's fine. But it's hard for me to look at that and go, you know, we need 10 workers, not 6, which we've got now, but you're willing to cut 2 of them. I don't care about, I'm fine, I'm gonna vote yes on giving you guys this money, okay? But I don't like the fact that you're gonna cut your department short. So I'm trying to get from you, are you willing to put yourself in that position? Because when you get those other 2, you're still gonna be short people. You do understand that?
Absolutely. I've been
Okay.
short these people, I've told you
I
once,
know.
2 years, Chuck.
I know, but you know how many times we've cut positions out of your department?
Before me, no.
He told us what he's converted.
I mean, if he's willing to do it, I'm good with it. I just wanna make sure that there is, I don't wanna cut, look, I'm not gonna be here next year anyway, so what the hell, right? But I am concerned about where the highway department's going. You know, I don't wanna come back here, sitting in a meeting, and then see somebody, you or whoever is appointed next year or whatever, hopefully it's you, you've been a damn good job, to come back and say, I need more people. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I do understand you,
Okay.
but I'm in a crunch right now, and this is what I can make work with the budget numbers that I have.
Right, but listen, this is one of the reasons why council's very important. Not only do we have to pay attention to what you're doing and so forth, but we have to pay attention to what's going on in the world. The CPI percentage increase this last 2 months, did anybody see that? That was a huge increase. What's that a sign of? That's a sign of coming recession, super recession, possibly even worse.
Did you make a motion?
I did.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Alright.
Are we waiting for Anton?
I'm just trying to cover you, that's all, Greg.
And Chuck, I appreciate it.
If you're
Can
willing
you
to take it,
restate-
I'm willing to deal it, but you've got my number, but don't call me, no, just kidding.
Can you restate your motion?
Yes, my motion was to go ahead and, accept the proposal in front of us for $1.588 for labor, and then 1.583 for operators.
So Greg, you only got 3 classes of people, clerical, operators, and labor.
Correct.
Where does the mechanic fit in?
Mechanic is under operator.
Okay,
Can I clarify something? I have to accept the cutting of 2 losses too, don't I have to put that in my motion, right? Cutting the shortage, cutting 1 labor and cutting. I'll continue with that with my motion if you wanna reconfirm your second, Andy.
All good.
I have.
It wasn't my second, but I'm good with
Oh,
it.
who's what, Burl? I apologize, Burl.
You're good.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
So your motion is to accept, As
This
presented.
proposal.
As presented.
do you have the numbers yet?
And does that bring them up to the median or close midpoint?
It would be more than the midpoint.
Okay, so then the next one, we'll know what to do.
Which I do have some questions on that. Who else is above the midpoint as of right now?
I would prefer to just make this motion vote
Yeah, let's
first,
vote
and
first.
then we go back to the
We're
review.
waiting for Anton's numbers.
we're jumping too much and we need to stay online. We understand exactly where we're at.
Can I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
We have 5 people sitting out here that were approved at the last meeting to do additional appropriations tonight. You have jail housing at 40,000 for mills, you have the coroner for 32,000 for autopsies, 500 for masks and gloves, the prosecutor user fee for $4,750, and the sheriff's payroll buyout for 2 employees, 17,270.81.
So moved.
Second,
Motion,
Where are we gonna pull that out of?
yeah.
The mills were coming from the jail housing, the coroners is the county general fund, into theirs out of the cash balance, the prosecutors was the 2,500 user fee fund, and the sheriff's was the riverboat.
I'd like to add that to my motion. My motion. My mashing, you think I see staff? You ready to suck on some new chat? Y'all don't know how to smile, do you? Y'all are upset or something.
Any discussion on that?
I just hate for you guys to have to be sitting here if you don't need to be.
Right, right. So motion was made by Chuck, seconded by Nick. All those in favor?
Well, we've got a motion, so.
We have a motion, that's what I was just about to point out, we have a motion.
Yeah, I was wondering how we do that.
Okay.
All right, I withdraw that, hold on a second, I withdraw my first motion, remake the second one, now you can vote.
Okay,
Close.
are we good? All right. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Now I make the
Now.
previous motion, see, do you understand why I'm trying to keep us on the thing?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, for that motion, we'll have to count that we have.
Who knows where they're coming from?
Sheila, do those need to be advertised, or were those usually here? That
They're
was,
just in.
No, those were advertised
Yeah.
for approval for tonight.
Okay.
We have another batch of new ones to present.
I wouldn't know, but I don't get emails anymore, I got emails.
It was good to read that Amazon's saying.
I'm telling you, it's intentional, somebody messed up my email address here. If I was still here, I'd be asking the sheriff to investigate that, because that is important.
Well, we checked.
11 years I got emails from this place.
And they say they are not coming back. I went straight to Jim Dorian and
I
Mike
totally-
both. I'm just telling you, I asked after
I
you
totally
made that.
get it, so I mean, somewhere, somebody's messing something. Trust me, I know what to look for.
And Greg, question for you, mechanic then would match operator, so it would also be the 19.421.
Yes. You intend to exclude out of the next discussion. Part of, I'll exclude the highway department because they're making, so the bid will be set at the budget.
public hearing though? What we just did? So I didn't open a public hearing.
Let's go back through the order again. Your second set is just hearing. Your first set is public hearing.
I mean, the ones that we just voted on, was that the one that was supposed to be in the public hearing?
So Anton, the final numbers are 1584 and 1920 something.
No, operator would be 19.421 and laborers, yeah, laborer would be 16.988.
Thank you. 16.98, thank you.
All right, so we've got the totals. The workers' comp I'm not gonna touch because that's a bit of a guess, but the grand total for the budget would be $2,981,193.
So okay, say that again.
2,981,193.
So it's definitely doable.
So that includes new regular wages. The office staff is unchanged here, because I think the original proposal had another increase for one of them. That's not a part of this, right?
Pardon?
The original proposal from a few weeks ago had, one of the office staff had an increase, but that's not a part of your new
I do
proposal.
have that in my proposal for my admin assistant. If you look at the original, job description, that should have been a 40-hour-a-week description, job, and it's not, it's 35, and that individual does do, we've spoken about this before, I believe it's important, it does do the same as, what my, assistant superintendent does, except in, different type work, so that is included, or that was my proposal. To have her at an operator's wage. And I will note, Councilman Heath can tell you that this is a fact, that job was always an operator until I had it changed and made it office staff. They just paid somebody as an operator to do that job.
So, is it all, we currently have 3 on the books that were last approved.
Yeah.
They were approved at 1,820 hours each, which is 35-hour work week.
Yeah.
So you're wanting to change those to a 40-hour work week,
Not the secretary,
not the secretary,
secretary's job, no,
just the admin assistant or the one that had been hired. Okay, so 2080. And then the amount of pay, what's the new rate of pay you're wanting for that?
Well, you're switching back to operators, so I'm assuming the operator's 19.421, right?
So are you eliminating it as a support and adding it as an operator, or are you just simply matching the cost?
I was just matching the cost.
Okay, so it's gonna stay a support, but it's at that pay. Okay, so that would be 19.421.
And I guess I'll have to add that to my motion because I did not know that.
Let me just do the math on that real quick.
Earl, are you cool with me adding that to the motion?
Yeah. So the position where we last approved it was already at 19.552. So there wouldn't be any change in pay, but there would be in hours. Is that accurate?
No, is it?
So when those were changed, you know, because remember, those were changed current budget year, like a couple months ago. In that proposal, the rate of pay was 19.552. So I want to confirm, is that accurate?
So you're wanting to take her to 40 but lower the rate, is that kind of what you're saying, Tom?
Well, I'm not saying either way. I'm asking Greg which way, you know, are we talking the correct baseline here? And I don't have my notes in front of me from a couple months ago when it got approved, but do you recall if that is accurate?
I'm proposing the base for that,
So did anybody have FTX, coin?
Give me just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know FTX coin collapsed this last weekend, huge. $10 billion just disappeared.
It didn't disappear.
Huh?
It didn't disappear.
Oh, yeah, well, they know where it went, Steve. The 22-year-old guy in the Bahamas,
He's 30.
is he 30?
30.
All right, sorry, 30. Oh, that's right, it's 22 billion, that's where I got it from. He's looking at numbers.
Do we have a motion and a second one?
Yes, we're waiting for Anton to get the final.
Okay, this is dealing with the highway department. Okay, I got confused. Do we make a motion and a second and deal with other issues?
Just me.
That's what I'm confused about. I don't even.
I withdrew a motion earlier so that we could pay the appropriations.
I don't,
Yeah.
did we okay it?
Yeah,
We
we
did.
did
Okay,
Is this the extra admin position that we said we were going to push to the first of the year, the last time?
I don't know.
That's not what we're talking about at the moment,
Okay.
the,
but,
is that the one that we're talking about, the operator?
Yeah, this
That
base
was-
pay is not for your.
It's,
run that by me again.
Did you say that again?
Base pay is operator to leave it at 35.
No change then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's really not changing, but we are paying currently, we already approved for 2022 a rate that's more than operative. So we're not gonna do a pay cut.
No, I don't wanna do a pay cut.
Okay.
I'm trying to, excuse me, but I
Yeah.
want
It's not in the
our
motion.
level to be what my assistant superintendent's is. But at 35 hours.
What's your assistant?
So I have the base pay, 19,686.
It's a little higher.
At 35 hours.
so this is the, one of the positions that's currently there.
Yes,
So 19,686.
that's base pay.
Right.
Which is a difference of,
And it brings, her hourly rate then would be, 21.675. My assistant superintendent is 22.813, my road foreman is 22.643. Let's speak about these people, council, these are the backbone of the highway department.
And were they originally in C or D level admin positions?
Was a D level.
I can't hear you.
I said, were these originally C or D level admin positions?
Yes.
And then you're leaving the hours at 1820,
Pardon?
leaving the hours at 1820?
Yeah, leaving the hours,
35 hours a week.
yes, 35 hours a week,
18
yes.
where's the motion stand again, Sheila? Even I forgot. Because I think we added that
You're
one
accepting
thing.
the proposal, reasonable and acceptable at 1.588 for labor, 1.583 for the operator. And then you went back and added to the motion the change in the pay and the number in the hours.
But then we found out she is 1955.
But it's still 35 hours.
Right. So we're not,
What he's trying to.
that was
do is
based on
difference.
9.421, 19 point.
So this would not affect the office jobs, right? I mean,
No,
No,
But the
I mean, at the 35, going from 40 to 35 in the admin positions that he had said, but he had, and then he had said one was the 19,421, so the pay is staying the same, it's just a reduction of 5 hours. Right, cause it was 40 was what was originally put in the budget, and you're saying it's 35.
It's 35 years.
Yeah, but if that's staying the same and the base pay is more, I need to remove the amendment. That's what I'm saying.
But then he also asked for that same level to be at the 19.686.
That wasn't in my motion, that's my
Was-
point.
Okay, so as far as cost is concerned, and Greg, I'm gonna run through this real quick. Greg's proposing to eliminate 2 positions, a laborer and an operator. He's proposing to take the laborer's base rate of pay to 16.988. The operator's base of pay and mechanic, 19.421. He's also proposing that for the admin assistant in the office, that position is gonna go to a total of 19.686,
Yeah,
keeping the hours the same. That's what he's proposing. If you do that,
Here's this,
the grand total of the budget is
That's the base pay with my level.
2,981,424.
with the total here. I'm not sure what you guys all discussed. So that's the base with my level
Well,
of the
you're gonna
D.
put that in the amendment, withdraw the amendment for the.
Yeah, that's my line item right there, my level,
Borough,
come up to that
I'm gonna
hourly.
withdraw the amendment I made.
Okay,
Do you guys want this copy?
do you wanna see it?
All the amendments, all the motions.
That bottom line down there is my base plus the level to come up with that
Yeah,
hourly.
19.686 is what he mentioned.
Mhm.
But that wouldn't include this grade. That already has that in there.
Holly?
Mhm.
I'm withdrawing that amendment.
That's already a part of the new base.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, we're gonna go with just laborers on that.
waivers in the,
Yep. Did that early.
So this is what you had
Raise that.
approved, 17, and then there's the level.
is that, I mean, do we need the final?
Yeah, so it was 17,903 before.
I don't think he
plus the
understands what they
1,649.
need.
But you're wanting to increase that
Yes,
up to the 19,
correct.
plus the 20. Okay, that's not what I figured. That's why I asked if there was an increase in the pay. So let's do another
He
figure.
withdrew the
Yeah.
admin part.
Yeah, the admin part is, we withdrew.
It's not a part of it.
So it's just the laborers and the operators.
Let's just keep it at that for now.
Yeah.
Okay, for a vote.
Yeah,
Please.
I'm with you.
Okay, all those.
Wait
in
a
favor-
minute, I think we should clarify
Okay,
what we're doing.
one more time.
The motion is based on the laborers and the operators to bring them to the numbers 19.41 for the operators and 170 for the laborers. The reason and I will say this, the reason I removed the amendment is because earlier this year, we had already raised that other position. And, at this time, I'm not ready to consider that.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor and
second.
and you had seconded it, Verl. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried.
You understand why I removed the one position? I do.
Now, I will tell you, I went ahead and voted, and Burl, you and Chuck said, we don't wanna discuss it right now, so we left it out. But before we got to the highway, there was a discussion about raising people to the midpoint. And Anton rattled off the words a few minutes ago, now they're above the midpoint, okay, with these positions. So the reason why I wanted to discuss that is because we're gonna go like this again. And we haven't even addressed the the other folks yet, so to try to get them to midpoint. So I want us to try to look at this fairly across the board, to try to get to a certain place to where one department isn't pointing fingers at the others, because I felt that this year.
Yeah, well, I felt it too. If you want my opinion, as far as the elected officials are concerned, you trained for the job, you knew what the job paid. You're here to serve the county, and it's not, you're not a CEO or a CFO or a CIO or a POI in any private company where you can make $75,000 and above, have a $750 car allowance and the best insurance on the planet. This is county government. So as far as the elected officials are concerned, yes, they should get a raise, but
Is that what
I'm not willing to do the council or the commissioners, I'm sorry, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, I agree, my concern is for the other elected officials. Because,
Yeah, well, there's still a few departments that still aren't, look, I mean, we don't have the money to do it, folks, okay, but I'm taking phone calls from different people, and they're not making enough either, and I get that, but I have to explain where I stand on the position, okay? We all have to do that. I need people in this county to understand every job is different. There are certain aspects, certain ties to those aspects outside in the real world that a lot of people don't see. They just go, well, Jimbo's making 10 cents more than I am, without understanding the position, what the fair market value is. That's why we had those wage study. And personally, I would like to say this. In the last 2 years, we have made some good movement in getting people going around and getting raises up. A couple years ago, we did circuit court. A year ago, we did EMS. This year, we did the sheriff's department. Now, we're helping out the highway department. Okay, everything is coming around in circles, okay? Because everything changes. But if somebody in one department thinks they're worth exactly what somebody else's is, sorry, that's not the case. Go out in the real world, learn what the real thing is. You're here in county government, you're here to do it for the people.
which brings us to that, back to, and we don't wanna go to 11 o'clock. But, it brings us back to the raises for the rest of them.
So I'll
So,
restate my motion for the 30%,
and that would be, minus the highway department.
minus the highway, department.
Yeah, you're making a motion, I don't wanna interrupt, but I wanna make sure we're clear that if we're doing the 30% or any adjustment to that it does not include anyone that surpassed
Right.
those amounts anywhere in the system.
Right.
That's the bottom line, because you don't wanna create, the intent is not to give more to a group who's already adjusted. And
Right,
you're gonna have, and I'm gonna need time to put the highway back into the new spreadsheet. But we know that with the action just taken, those levels are now above where that 30% would take them. So they would not be included
Right.
in that.
And they have already.
Okay.
So I stated a motion, I'm going to amend it before we hear a second. The jobs that I said would not be affected by this, sheriff, jailer, deputies, matron, admin, the jail, communications, highway, we just discussed, clerk, circuit court, EMS,
Except for one support position.
except for one support position in building department.
Probation.
but if we did the
Probation and yes,
But if we did the 30%, we wouldn't have to state all that, would we?
Well,
It would just
no, we just need to figure it, but somebody needs the authority to, like Sheila, to make sure that we go in and it's clear what directions, some are very easy, but like the highway, I've not programmed in yet. And so there's no way to make sure. I mean, right now, if I plug that in, all those positions have big increases, you know, because it's bringing it towards the midpoint. It doesn't account for what we already did. So we need to make sure to go back in there and make sure we're correct on numbers. And that's the part I'm a little afraid of, you know, because we're not gonna have another meeting before the deadline.
Okay, can I give a friendly amendment to the council president to make judgment calls with the auditor on who's included and who's not?
The highways needs to say not to exceed the 3 million, because that's what was approved. So if we get close
Right.
somewhere,
And I don't think any
we
of
might
it would
have to
touch
cut
that.
$500 out of something, but I don't think we're gonna go over. You're at 981, 424, I think you'll be okay, but it can't exceed the advertised
It
amount.
needs to be brought up.
The 112,608, again, the motion would have to be that it cannot exceed that amount, because that's all that was put in that line item.
Right,
So then if you make sure that departments or the individuals that qualify or don't qualify because they're above that already, you'll have to see what those amounts are. And it's gonna take a few days of shutting the door and leaving us alone to get those numbers figured and counting on Anton and spreadsheets, which we pretty much had the 2023 as it was, but it's still gonna take some time to make sure that this is turned in by 4 o'clock next month. Yes.
Okay, so I'll add a friendly amendment to give the council president the authority to consult with the auditor to make sure that the
What motion is on the floor, so I understand?
30%,
Who seconded that?
no one,
Then you just restate your motion.
okay? So to go with, my motion's to go with the 30% increase rate. I rattled off all these positions that wouldn't be included, I
Well, she
think,
got those.
okay?
And I don't think you should, to be honest, cause then you're
Right,
putting yourself
so-
into a corner.
Right.
So the 30% rate, and I wanna give the council president the authority to consult with the auditor on any positions that, are questionable or not clearly stated.
and that does not include the council or the commissioners.
That does not include the council, thank you, the council or the commissioners for an increase.
Do you understand?
I'm
You look
thinking very
confused.
heavily.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Anton. Are there any
What
questions?
if this exceeds the 112,000?
Well, yeah,
We've
that
got
would
an
be,
estimate,
right,
the estimate was 85.
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was 85 when we last figured it, but that included council and commissioners, so you're backing that cost out.
not to
But he's
exceed
not putting a limit
112.
on it,
Okay,
but you should add a limit.
maybe I should, but the 85 did not include, or included the council and commissioners. So we can back that off.
And the highway department before we.
That was separate anyway.
Yeah.
That was separate.
Oh, it's separate anyway, thank you.
It was just 85 to the general fund.
But not to exceed $85,000.
Sounds fair.
Second.
Anton.
Anton, do you accept that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Can I ask one question? With that motion, what is the pay for the corner?
Well, it's gonna go
Well,
up.
that will go up significantly, cause that was about a $7,600 difference.
73. Any other questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried.
May I recommend we take a 15-minute break between now and new business? Oh, we have a public hearing. No, we already did that.
We have ARPA under order.
Take a brief break.
You want to take a quick break? Okay,
Clear the mind.
15-minute break.
A lot of numbers being circulated.
Okay.
do, the road inventory, Ms. Whiting may do that, and the other person do the secretarial work. That's, would be my plan, the new person to do that.
So you'd be shuffling some things around is what you're wanting to do, okay.
I guess my concern is about the 180,000 decrease, and that's a 40, what did you say, Anton, 47,000 would be the total cost of that job? That
Let me look it up here real quick.
Look, I'm gonna be straight up, council. This was vetted during budget hearings, and we keep revisiting this. Councilman Keith and I talked about this the other day, and he can tell you, adding this work, or with this, is gonna bring money into the highway department. It was his exact words to me. I don't know if everybody doesn't communicate, but it's time.
Well, you know,
Now, I don't want you to take the position, if you're gonna just take the position, I think it's about the position itself. I don't wanna lose the money out of my budget. If you're gonna take my position, I'll put it back somewhere else.
I tell you,
And that's not what I wanna do.
a lot of people don't understand it, but at the time I was there, if that job is done right, it's a big job. And that accumulated bridging fund, all the inspectors coming in there on the bridges, that when you get them inspected and all that stuff, it's a major job. But I don't know how he runs it, and I don't know the whole situation. But I feel that you gotta take his point of whether he needs it or not.
Well, in that case, that's where I lack a little bit. So what you're saying is this position will help you monitor these roads and submit state reports, and thus the state will turn back more money to us? So I wanna understand this, what I'm hearing, because I'm not sure I've ever understood.
That's what I used it for, but I don't know how he's gonna do it completely, but that's a very important job if it was done like when I done it, but.
Yeah, but that's not what I just heard. What I just heard is that this position would bring more money into the highway department. Is that true? Can somebody verify? Because that's not the way I understand cum cap.
Well, it's not human cab.
You just said cumulative bridges.
Well, that's take care of the bridges and then they get the grants for this stuff also, they put in.
See, that's the way I remember that.
Yes.
So.
And it's a very important job, but I don't know how he runs it, I can't speak for him, but if he says he needs it, I mean, he's been in it long enough that he knows too, so that's all I can say, you know.
Andy?
my concerns are where they were at the last meeting, and whether or not you agree on whether or not the technology guy was here, or should have been, yeah, WTH guy was here, or not. He said that we're not leveraging our technology, you know, and that there's more we can do. There's also the possibility of, you know, a consultant coming in and helping rectify this issue rather than paying a full-time position with pay and benefits year-round. Now, you know, if that's not everybody else's interest, I mean, that's what, and I will tell you this. You just said, Greg, well, if you guys don't talk, well, I mean, not really. I mean, that's kind of what this is about. I mean, getting ideas out on the table right here and voting on them. I mean,
Well, I understand that, Andy. I reached out to council members and was contacted, I even reached out to you.
Well, and I will tell you, you reached out to me on a Friday. Then Monday morning, I pull up my email and your secretary said Greg wants to meet with you. I emailed back and said, yep, tell me when, I've got this time available, never heard a thing back.
Well, then I have to apologize, don't have that information. But I will be able to look on my email and see if it's.
Oh, I can forward it to you, but bottom line is, I know I did my part, I didn't hear anything after that.
And for me, I returned the call
No, I know you did, Chuck. I wasn't including you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, well, I'm part of the council, so I just want to make sure. Not for much longer, so you don't have to worry about that, but.
Well, we talked about identifying what the problems actually are and how big of an issue this is on, because the money is from the road mileage. I mean, that's where the money is.
Right.
I mean, that's the dollars. The other stuff, it's operational, it may be needed, you can reshuffle, that kind of thing. But do we really know? I mean, do we have examples? Do we know how much we're off? I mean, are we talking, we're thinking there is, and we're talking 200 miles worth of roads, and how are we coming up with that number, and how are we justifying that? Have we done that or tried to do
Well, I
that?
had said since 2019, and I think you and I have had this discussion, I have reported, many times that I believe there's over 800 mile of county road, and we're only certified for the
632.
630.
Right.
What have you. In regard to, the gentleman that was in with GPS, or the layers on the map, commissioners have a contract with him. Commissioners have vetted this position too. A lot of the information, if you would have asked me for that information prior to that meeting, I could have went right in and printed it out, and handed it to you. A lot of that information we have provided to that company. I didn't get to hear his whole presentation because I was on the way in here when he was giving that. That being said, there was a part of that I missed. And I have listened to it. I didn't, realize we were gonna speak about this again tonight, but,
I guess my original question is that, and I'm not necessarily expecting something for certain, because we don't know. But if it's just an I believe or I think, I want something more than that, as far as, you know, if we have an actual problem, or think we've got one, we need to have something a little more solid on that before committing to a full-time engagement. You see where I'm going with that? And I don't care what it is, or,
what has happened different, and it's gotta be my question, what has happened different between now and budget time? What has happened different between now and the meeting that occurred when we vetted this position?
well, I think that there ended up being a lot more questions than answers as far as the need and the operations as to what the problem actually is. And so here we are, we still got them, or we still have the questions, but not as many answers, and Commissioner Curry, maybe you can help.
Well, I would love to.
Okay.
I'd like for Greg to explain, he's calling me about a condition we had with a bridge in Monroe County that he thought was Monroe County. Instead, when he got checking to it, he found out it was in Owen County, and we got a lot of expenses, that maybe if we had this person, they would already had this in Owen County, we'd had the grants for it, and Greg can explain it better than I can. But there's the example right there, that the road.
So the bridge was not in the inventory?
The end of it was half of it, whatever, wasn't great.
We're actually speaking about the bridge on County Line Road.
Seacrest Ferry, the old one?
No, the new bridge.
Oh, the new one? Okay.
There's a problem with the new bridge. On the, south end of the bridge.
The dip.
It's got a dip in it. It's beginning to, need repair. There is a question as to who will pay for that. Is it ours? Is it theirs? I've been working on that. I don't necessarily think this position, would relate to that. United Consulting and I are working on, this situation. But, there is, an issue with that bridge, but, I think we probably have that worked out, by now. Forgive me, Commissioner Curry, I haven't got back with you on that, but I do believe that area of the bridge will be Monroe County's issue,
Hopefully,
not ours.
on their side.
The bridge is our inventory, it's in our inventory because of the way counties take care of borders. But, researching that bridge, Owen County paid, half, Monroe County paid half. So I think it's gonna work out.
So in light of the, and I'm gonna say moneymaker, forgive me for the terminology, okay? But if the money is in the road inventory, we can get more money through the formula that the state distributes MVH on. Then that's where the focus needs to be.
That's correct.
Why could you not, and I know you've got other office stuff you're thinking about and that kind of thing, but can we not cherry pick that out and have that contracted? I'd rather have an individual for a certain period of time tasked with doing X, Y, Z for a set dollar amount to get us up to date on whatever needs to be up to date. Maybe that's on a per unit basis or something, because we don't know how much we're off. I mean, how do we know we're not correct at 600 miles of roads? I mean, we could be. How do we know it's 850? How do we know it's not 700? We don't know what that endpoint is, but if you have some kind of contractual relationship with an individual, you might have a little better application of addressing that problem, bringing in the revenue, and then I would say at that point, if there's a massive improvement in the funding level of the department because of that, then we would probably be in a better position to think about full-time staffing and how that fits into the equation.
I gave up a position to do this. I'm not willing to give that position up. I don't want to give a position up if you just want to do away with this, office job.
Well, then we're short in our cash balance over the course of '23, which is a concern. And how do we not spread ourselves too thin later in the year, especially if you have some kind of issue?
Point out that the very first, meeting we had at the highway department, Nick suggested that we do it on a,
I asked you about a contract, yeah, we talked
right.
about that.
What was the discussion then about the contract?
Nothing, I just made mention, it was brought to my attention that this needed to be addressed. And I thought, well, maybe a contract would be better than a full-time employee. But then Greg he brought it before the council and we went ahead and set it up for a full-time position.
So
I mean, we hadn't
you
looked at
asked,
anybody to do the contract. It was just in the conversation, it was mentioned.
Nothing formal, but
No, it was just,
Right, it was-
as a
it was
liaison, we
suggested.
talked about it.
right? What were you gonna say?
your question, Greg, regarding what's changed, I will tell you, I would like to see how far we can leverage the existing contract with WTH, because he said that there was a lot more that could be done that we weren't doing. Then possibly look at consultancy. The thing that just, I've got my head wrapped around here, is that if there is only a set amount of miles that you think that we're not getting, and that mapping those gets us to a calculated amount, then at some point, this thing isn't infinite. All right, at some point, it goes from A to B on getting us mapped to where we need to be, and then maybe if there is an addition or subtraction because some farmer says, hey, I wanna take this over, and the commissioners vote to let them do that, then it's a small tasker. But a year-round employee to do it, that's my concern. And that's kind of where I'm at based on what's been brought before us, over the last 2 months. So I just want to answer it for you because that's my thinking on it.
Now, it's not gonna be free though, Andy, because the consultant is gonna charge you money to do it.
No,
So,
But it's not it would.
it may not be the same dollar amount, but there would be a cost, correct, of hiring an individual to do that. Even if it's on a contract, but.
And in regard to one of the questions that, the individual, or that was asked, and I picked up bits and pieces, they were asked, Chris was asked if he used it. I know, Kathleen was asked if she used it. Use it every day, guys. It's not something we don't use. We use those layers every day. It's not foreign to us. He's not foreign to us.
Yeah, it's just a tool that you use.
Yes. But I would beg to differ with him. We provided them with the information that they put into that system.
And he did say, because I've watched it several times, that it was not going to be an easy task and that it was going to take some time. But at some point, it would be finished, But he said it's not easy. And he even said, people in the office probably don't have time to do it because it is such a time-consuming job. But once it's found,
Once it's done, it's done. I would say, like I
With
said,
that
there would be
part.
small maintenance,
But with that part, and then I don't know
Necessarily a
what,
full-time job.
not for that, I don't know what,
You're certainly not
They're
gonna
thinking-
decrease roads.
I don't know what they're thinking in additional responsibilities of that job.
How does the state certify our road amounts?
There's a phaser.
I would just like to make note, the county has known for 30 years, 32 to be more precise, that our inventory has been off. I think it's time we get this corrected, so we can start having the revenues come in to our department that we need to. We're maintaining roads out there, but we're not certified.
I don't think that there's any question, that's the
Just the
goal.
way to go about it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think another point Greg made, and it is worthy of notice, is the fact that he gave us a truck driver. Is that what we're
Yes.
saying? Okay, so if this doesn't work, do we need to give him his position back? Had we took it out of the budget?
We did,
We did?
we did.
Okay.
My question's still not answered. How does the state certify us for the amount of roads we have?
We probably have a GPS.
What we do, there's information that's provided, to the state, if anything that we have to recertify. There's a form, that's, turned in to recertify. Now, what we have to do is figure out where the issue is. We may have to go back to minutes many, many years ago. There's gonna be some research that needs to be done, I think, extensively. We intend to do this township by township. I think you're gonna find, you're gonna find mistakes in every one.
Okay, so this is a highly specialized job. What I'm trying to understand here is, first of all, we said positions. Somewhere along the way, I didn't get information about what really is the problem, so I'm trying to figure it out. Somewhere, we think we have more roads than we actually have. Therefore, we have to prove it to the state in order to be certified by the state, in order to get those funds increased from the state.
That's right.
Okay. So to me, I don't think it's, I personally don't understand why we would have to go back. It's simply, you'd have to hire a company, verify the road amount, verify the roads entirely, and then we submit that to the state. That to me seems like a special project. Am I mistaken?
That's what I said.
Right.
Because the reality is, there's no need for us to go back in paperwork. We have the technology now to go ahead and mark roads, mark mileage, through GPS, and I'm sure if we hired a specialty company, that would be the case.
Wrong.
No?
Excuse me, yeah, not just marking the roads, you have to have proof that those roads are supposed to be, so we need to know when the commissioners adopted them. We need to know, it is, and I have to submit that.
That's one of the ways.
Or if they did
but what's
adopt
the
them, and then if they didn't adopt them, then I have to go in and say, okay, commissioners, you've maintained this road 30 years, now what do you do?
But you see what I'm saying, it's still specific, because once you get the report of the mileage and locations and everything, then you would be able to go in and look at those things. Okay, are we gonna naturally assume that there's 50 to 100% mistakes, or are we going to assume in the general world, when you make an assumption, you're looking between 3 and 7% of the possibility? At that point, we're still looking at a specialty cause, it comes back, and then we look at those roads that they say, hey, something isn't right about this. Does that make sense?
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
I disagree with you, but I can respectfully do that.
Well, of course, we disagree, we disagree before that, we can do that. But hold on, I mean, I'm trying to understand this, okay? I get that we've already approved that for the budget for 2023. We are going to submit that final, all that stuff, it's already been gone through. But I'm missing information. So I'm trying to put it together. What we have is, at this point, from what I'm understanding, is that somebody thinks we have 200 miles more of road in this county than we actually do, or do we have 20 miles more of road? Because if you're talking about 200, now you're talking about 33% of what we currently have inventory. If you're talking about 10% or 5%, now you're talking about 60 miles or 30 miles. I don't see, and I understand both sides, but I don't see how 10, 15, 30 miles is going to be.
Well, I don't wanna misspeak with this, Chad Walker, are you in here?
Yes.
Okay, I wanna get it right for the grandfather. Chad's grandfather was the county highway superintendent one time many years ago. And, his almost response was he didn't know what the hell happened, but when he was county highway superintendent, he took care of 920 miles of road.
Did the state come in and take those roads? I mean, does anybody have any clue?
I think a lot of what's happened is in commissioners meetings, have they vacated them? Have they closed them? If they're closed, we have to open them back up. The property exchange hands and the people ask us to open them back up.
Okay, but what you're saying is that if they did vacate them, that's not going to help us as far as the grant. It's going to actually subtract.
We're talking about two different things when we talk about grants.
So as far as the,
In regard to roads, whether they were vacated or closed, I'm gonna tell you what, there's a lot of roads closed in Owen County, but I would say 95%, I think, really easy of the roads that have been closed in Owen County were never vacated.
They were never vacated, but we were
Which
taken
means
off.
we don't have to go back and open them back up.
At some point, they were taken off the state certified road mileage.
But we're just not talking about roads like that. I can take you to, roads that are hard surface roads, that, aren't right. We're getting, you know, we've worked on them as we can. I can take you, to roads that are certified, that are private lanes, that are, and then you go down and then there's not, it should be in different locations. I will just tell you, and I told the man from GIS that was in here, he's done a really poor job if, he can do everything that he says he can do.
Well, and I think we need to leverage that. My concern is, this has always been put to us as, we think there's more, you know, and I'm sure that maybe there is.
I'm telling you, I know there's more.
Okay, there's more, but we don't know, so.
But how do I know until the research is done?
But that's why I'm a proponent
Done.
for a consultancy to say, hey, this is where, you know.
Well, then I guess at that point in time, I asked for it in my budget as the highway superintendent. I don't think your quarrel's with the highway superintendent, your quarrel would be with the commissioners, because the commissioners do these contract issues. So, I think that it's not a discussion of whether it should be contracted out, because I tell you that I think I need the position. I didn't get to listen to the guy entirely, I have listened to it. That's just, that's where I stand. I think besides doing that, there's this position because of different requirements, reporting. Now, Anton, you know this for the stuff that you do when we report to LTAP. My workload, my office staff workload, has increased dramatically since I went into that office, because this wouldn't be the only thing that this person does. It's helped tip the scale. And the reason I asked for the position, it's not the only one.
I think that.
And in fact, like I said, if this position goes through, I would use a new secretarial position, and because of the abilities that Ms. Whitinger has, I would have her do this particular work.
I have a question. Is it going to be, would it entail someone physically getting in a vehicle and driving and checking on roads?
Yes.
And would it be countless hours in the courthouse finding the information?
Yes, we believe the research needs to be done before we can prove to the state that this is what we need to do. So yes, it's going to be research. When I say research, I mean researching files in the courthouse.
Because there's, in addition to the roads that you're not accountable for, I guess, if there's only 600 compared to 900, but doesn't some of that have to do with closed and vacated, like he said, and wouldn't that take physically bridges or roads or whatever, aren't there bridges too that need?
When I speak about bridges, we have a consultant for bridges that do bridge inspections. When I talk about bridges, one of the big issues with bridges now is the reporting that is required. We have bridge reports required, and we get a percentage of money back from each inspection. And we do these quarterly reports. We have, on top of the quarterly reports, we have meetings with our consultants regularly in regard to bridges. In fact, we have one at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and that's those are requirements that keep growing in regard to bridges.
So there's bridges on some of these roads that we're talking about, that were either, are they being inspected or not being, are they costing us more money?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I can understand more. Now we're no longer talking about 200 miles more. This is actually going back and talking about roads that are vacated. So while you have no idea how many roads we have other than the certification from 1792, 630 miles, we now know that, so, again, somewhere I missed some information between budget hearings and now. And that's fine, because we all know that my email doesn't work for some ungodly reason. So, the real issue is, we believe we have 630 miles, or 684, whatever number between 6 and 700. That some of that mileage has been vacated, and I can tell you it has, because I live near a road that was vacated. The amount of mileage that we believe has been vacated is, what do you believe it is? Is it 2 miles, 5 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles? So give me some sort of range of what you think has been vacated, based on your experience and what you've been out there in the field and seen.
I think there's a difference of about 200 miles of provable road that, we need to be, receiving monies on that we're not. In regard to, vacated roads that need to be, closed roads that need to be vacated, so, somebody doesn't sell a piece of property and decide that they want the road open because they wanna build a subdivision, or what have you, I would say that there are, based on the 920 quote from an old superintendent, another 200 miles of road.
And that age of that number of 300 miles, when was that statement made? I mean, from the time till now, I mean, what kind of years are we looking at?
Again, that was your
He was
grandfather.
in 95, 96, I believe.
So, near 30 years then, right? And the last certification of our roads that we sent to the state for tax disbursement, do we know when that occurred? I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, that's truly what we're talking about. Sounds like that's a pretty important information. When was the last certification that we sent to the state that this is how many roads we have?
It was before I was superintendent.
Well, yeah, I know it was.
Because I've been saying it's wrong since 19.
And we've also acquired some housing additions, so we've got additional mileage there. 3 has been acquired in the last 4 years that I'm aware of.
Right. Well, and that's probably why we need the state to come down and certify it. Let's let them do it.
Well, that's what I was wondering too, and Gary, what would a consulting company, if there's that much work required in that, fixing that problem, I wonder what that would, no.
We can't be the only county that has this problem.
No, he said that. He said that, but he said that a lot of people, or a lot of highway departments just had someone that was their job, doing this specific job.
So,
Whatever the guy's name was, he said, there's counties that have this position. But, I would bet, I don't know, considering what everybody else charges for consulting, that it would be quite a bit of money to have them do that job. But maybe they can give a quote.
I've said this in the past. We've made this decision. And there was a lack of information, but we still made the decision. And without preponderance evidence indicating that we made the wrong decision at this point, I haven't been presented enough for me to change my mind. What we did at the budget hearing is what we did at the budget hearing, so, and forgive me, because I was out under an injury that occurred not 15 minutes before she called me, isn't that right? So I'm clearly missing information. So in order for me to say, I'm gonna return back what I said at budget hearings, I need something that is more substantial than what we think it's gonna be in the next 2 years on either side, otherwise I'll be abstaining. Because I'm not understanding, we gave the position, now we wanna pull it back because we think we can get it there. I'm hearing 200 miles, I'm hearing vacated land. Well, vacated and 200 miles is a huge stretch. That's negative to positive. So there's not enough information for me to make a decision.
So this is a priority project, in my opinion. I mean, it concerns the revenue, and we know that revenue is short. I just don't think that the solution is there yet. I don't think that the right solution is there. I still lean more contract and consultant than I do employee, and I know that's gonna still cost money. I'm not, well, and.
Because I did a budget.
Yeah.
Based on this.
So whether it costs for a consultant or employee, I don't know if there's really any savings involved in that. But I think that there is a lot to gain from the right application to the problem. If there is the individual that, yeah, you might pay a little more for consulting, but they might be better equipped to more quickly knock it out and in a scalable way, because again, we don't know whether it's gonna be 20 roads, oh great, we're done, or if it's 200, and it's gonna be more involved.
And when it's done, it's done.
And then there's an end point as well, so I really wanna give more thought to more of a contract solution, and if we're willing to just maybe, if Chuck is not willing to make a decision, and in all fairness, maybe leave it open for now, but we need to have some work done to explore that option and see what all's involved with that. And are we off on our thinking? Is it realistic? Or, what's it gonna cost? There's a lot of unknowns there that I would want answers to.
Here's some quotes on what it would cost on, contracting, something like that. Sheila, what do we need? I know you said we need to make a decision tonight on what we're doing. If we were wanting to,
You do not,
investigate whether to do it as a contracted service versus a full-time position, what do we need?
Is that not the commissioner's decision whether to contract?
It is.
It would be,
It is.
but I think,
He's got other requirements from this position besides just checking mileage. He's our superintendent.
I thought you just said that we needed to talk to Greg about this.
You did, and now I'm talking about what Greg just
So
mentioned.
now you're weighing in.
I'm a commissioner,
Before
I
you
have
go
the right
there-
to speak here the same as you.
You know what?
Before you
All right,
go there,
remember that.
let me put this in there.
Sure.
If you don't do something tonight, and it gets past January, or past 21st, you have no choice. Because at that point, his budget goes into effect on 2023, and he can't hire, and this council can't say squat, because it's in his budget. As much as I understand what you all are saying here, I think there's been some information left out. Somewhere along the way, there's some information missing. I can't say it's on your side because you came and you presented it to us that night. So somewhere, some information came out, and I can't understand what it is. How did we get to a point where we realize after we talked to you that this could have been a contract or this could have been a short hire to get it done? That's what I'm missing here. So somebody, please fill me in, because to be honest with you, I'm really lost. And I've told you in the past, we've done this in the past, and I've said it. You don't go back once you get it done unless you have an extremely darn good reason. And I've said that, Nick, haven't I?
Nick,
Contract, I understand. commissioner's call. Budget, it is our call. If the council wants to make a motion tonight to pull that budget, Greg gave us a truck driver's position. I mean, maybe it'd be fair to give him the truck driver's position back. If this is not gonna be funded, that is the council's call whether or not it's gonna be funded. Now, if we wait till January the 1st, then the budget's in, the new year's in, then I don't know, is that too late to address it? We've already spent an hour on it tonight. Maybe it'll be addressed tonight, maybe there'll be a motion made, or if not a motion made, let's table it and let's move on.
Well, then
Was
you
your
have to
question
understand that because of raises, the money doesn't fit any longer. If you just said you have it back, it doesn't fit.
It's not an elected position, you have nobody in the position yet, how has that suddenly changed to what we did earlier?
No, what I'm saying, Chuck, is I've got so many dollars in my budget.
Right,
So if a secretarial position at 35 hours a week makes a
oh,
lot.
you mean for switching it for
Yeah, it makes a lot less money.
Okay, I see.
It doesn't
Oh,
fit.
sorry, I see what you're saying.
But if we're
My
gonna
fault.
address it, we do it tonight, if that's gonna be a criteria that we have to work with, it has to be done tonight, because this budget's gotta be sent in, and we can adjust it tonight. But I'd like to say, I think we've took enough time, we need to do something.
So what's the difference between the two positions, in pay?
Budget hearings.
No, but I'm.
Truck driver versus admin or secretary?
Secretary, Anton, to what an operator
We
would
never do
be.
this with.
Operator,
They bring-
not
That's what truck drivers went to, was operator.
You were not, there was another time this happened.
let's see here.
You honestly, we do, I know so much, you don't have out a substantial.
I wasn't there, that's what I'd like to know too.
So,
What,
that's all
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
Chuck asked the question, I wasn't at budget hearings, so I would like to know what did happen? That it was approved, the budget went through, and so how did all this come
He
about?
created a position for.
Yeah, I know
position,
that,
And we put it in the budget.
I know, and it was.
Yeah, so what happened?
So what happened?
Cause she missed the
It's
meeting,
been froze.
I missed.
But-
The council has froze that, because that position.
Basically, council, I've been hired to do a job as a department head. And I've watched you sit, I've watched Chris, and excuse me, Chris, for saying this, but I've watched Kathleen, and I've watched elected officials come in, and you trust what they say. So, you just absolutely do not have any faith in what I've done as the highway superintendent. But I bring this before you.
And the consultant that was here.
Because we talked about this,
No,
and that's exactly
No.
what it is.
No, see, this council is elected to govern these positions, okay? We say no, and through awful budget cuts, I said no to him, said no to many different people for many different things. That does not mean that I've lost faith in Jen Abril whenever we didn't agree on something, okay? So let's not amp up the drama, Greg, all right?
There is no drama.
Okay,
I'm not
let me
amping up
just,
anything.
but let me explain to you,
I'm
sir, let me explain to you, that does not mean that anybody's lost faith in anybody else. We're up here doing a job that we're elected to do. That's it, plain and simple. That's it.
I would just like to say that he did bring it to us, we agreed to it at budget. Can I please have anybody tell me why, from budget to now, because I did miss a meeting, what changed? Who said this isn't gonna work? Who came up with the idea that, you know what, it might be better if we go with a consultant? I wanna hear from that person, because in my heart, I know what I agreed to. Okay, if it's something external that I don't like, that's fine. But I can't change my mind without an external reason for this occurring and somebody coming to me and saying, this is a better way to go because we realize A, the position would be done as soon as the thing is over, but I haven't had any proof of that said to me other than what was said at this meeting. So can somebody please tell me what was said in particular that convinced people on this council that we had to change direction?
I think I had, for myself, I didn't understand the process that it would take, when we decided to do a full-time position. And now that I feel like I understand the process a little bit more, I am, more inclined to, think like what Nick, like it's more of a temporary instead of a full-time position forever. I mean, that's my question that I would like to, that the questions raised in my mind.
Where did you get that information?
I did talk to, the WTH, representative that, for a long time on the phone. I did not realize he was gonna be here that night until, a few hours before. And he, graciously drove a 2-hour drive to come in and make his presentation. And I felt like that not, maybe created a little bit more question in my mind on whether we needed whether it actually needed a full-time position for, indefinitely.
So the guy from
Rather than-
WTH
rather
gave
than
you
listening.
information
Well, on the process, on how it was.
on the process of what he says is going on.
For-
Now, may I? Greg, did you talk with the person at WTH?
I told the person WTH downstairs the evening.
And what was your opinion? Did he give you any opinion? Did you come and watch the presentation?
I didn't.
Okay. Did he give you anything in your discussion with him that would, enlighten further what I'm missing?
He did not. I told him, I spoke to him, I told him, contractual services needed to be discussed with the commissioners and,
Okay.
that,
So now we kind of have an idea where we're at. We have some people on the council who heard from WTH, and you spoke to him and said that it would have to go to the commissioners to be.
I didn't necessarily agree with the man from WTH. I was just telling him that the commissioners make.
But did you hear something of his that made sense?
Look, what I believe with WTH is we provided them with the information, so maybe I missed something from his
Come up with a way to
presentation.
fill
He
this
said
gap
he
between.
would provide.
You see why I'm unable, because I can't, I just,
I'm ready to go to the vote
no,
with
you're
this.
being great, and you, listen, I hate no
Nothing's really changed.
But you understand where I'm coming from, there's not enough information. We voted on budget hearing to allow him to do it. As of yet, I have not seen enough information on either side to do a 180, you understand what I'm saying?
Then I make a motion that we table this. Don't say
You
my.
can't table it
No, we
because
can't.
it
You
goes
have to
until.
make-
Okay, I make a motion then that we address it, take a vote on it.
Okay.
Take a vote on whether or not we give him a truck driver back, or we allow this position to stay in the budget for next year.
You can't give me a truck driver back because don't have money left for a truck driver.
Okay, so you
Let
asked,
me make a motion, we'll get this.
Wait, just a
Hey,
minute,
he's
just a
got-
minute.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So-
On.
Forgive me because it's getting a little late. So the cost of the office position is $33,558. The cost, yeah, and benefits a wash, especially if you're doing a trade on a position. The position of operator is $40,396. So if you did a position swap or reverse, it'd cost an additional $68.38 in wages, plus 18.5% for the FICA and the PERF. Now, the benefits is a wash. But, again, I don't wanna swap. I think that my issue is, are we applying the right solution? Is it committing to a full-time position, or is it doing it through a contract? And yes, the commissioners have the contractual I understand that. But I think I would rather make a decision knowing darn sure that one versus the other is the better solution. And I think it's just, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's just a good idea to explore both options. We've not really explored the contract part enough for me to feel comfortable with it. And if it comes back and it's determined that that's $100,000 project and it's ridiculously complicated and it's not gonna give us what we want, so be it. Then we need to go back to the position discussion. But if it's the other way around, if there is some solution that's efficient, is at least the same cost, and it's something that can be done in a defined time period, I'd rather do that, to be honest, because it has to be done. It's an important function that needs to be done, and I'm not debating that.
How do we
Madam
make that
Chair, I made a
into?
motion.
Well,
I'm making that an emotion is impossible, but
I
I'm
mean,
just,
how do we do
but
that?
tonight is not the final, the budget, it can always be adjusted one way or the other. Yes. Maybe not.
The 3 million was approved, you do not want to reduce it, you can leave that amount.
Right.
Which is everything together, 47,000, all of that, you can leave that in that position. That gives you until your December meeting to try to come up with a consultant, try to come up with, if you can figure something out. If you decide that you do not want to have that position, you can do a budget reduction January the 1st. You can take that amount out of there. Or apply
transfer
it
it
toward
to contract.
a
if that works.
contract
Okay.
or the truck driver. So you can still leave it in there as is now and do a budget reduction. That gives you 6 more weeks to try to figure out what is gonna be the best in moving forward. But you need to include Greg and you need to include the commissioners in that process, if there's anybody that you're aware of or what you wanna do. But you do not wanna cut that $3 million.
And that's understandable. And I said at the
Right, right.
last meeting, I want the stakeholders to get together and discuss this, and that has not happened in the last 3 weeks. So nothing's changed. We've had a big discussion and it's been helpful in some areas. But in all fairness to you guys, in all fairness to making a proper decision, we've got to follow through on that, and we've not done that.
We have council and commissioners here tonight, set a meeting.
Okay. that
Madam
sounds like a
Chair,
good-
I withdraw my motion.
There can't be a meeting, Greg, until we speak to WT. He informed us that it was best that they train a county employee to do this job, not for them to do it. He made that very clear.
See, there's another piece of information I didn't.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Did he say that?
Nobody told us.
Yeah, I've got a motion.
So wait a minute.
He jokingly said it cost $1 million. We are.
I've got a motion.
He did say a million dollars.
I got people telling me 2 different things, so
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a piece of information I don't have.
I think that we voted commissioners in, the whole county voted the commissioners in. And then they hire a guy to run the place. If, I know that they've got faith in him to do it, and I've got faith in him to do it. If they don't need that person full-time down the road or something, they can either lay her off or whatever has to be done. But if they think that they can get that job done and do it right with that, we've already okayed it once. I think we need to go with that. I make that in a motion.
That you lift the freeze that's on there and it stays in the budget.
Yes.
Did you say her? Have you chosen somebody already?
Yeah.
Well, no, that was just your word of speech.
Wait. Oh, I don't, no, it said her, he's shaking his head, they've chosen somebody already.
Earl, we talked about this.
Yeah.
You and I'm.
That was then.
Are you voting?
No.
Can we just move this?
Yeah.
let's,
No,
can we,
hey,
let's
we have a motion on the floor,
Yeah,
let
that's
him vote.
Yeah,
There needs to
Well,
be a
there's no
second to that, and
There's
so
no
the
second.
motion was to keep it as is that correct? Okay.
After what she said, that's what I thought, just keep it like it is.
Didn't accept.
No, I didn't.
No.
I hadn't. But if we need to move on, we got, I'll second his motion to get a vote, one way or the other, win, lose, or draw. It's gonna be midnight before we get out, or after.
No,
Get out.
it's only 10.
Yeah, it's really a 10, so we got another hour.
No, and I know it's a serious
Serious
and
thing,
I don't wanna take
can I
it.
ask one final thing?
Yeah.
I would like to see this on December agenda. because
I do.
I can't, there's too many contradictions and I'm not happy.
I agree.
Well, we got a motion second, I call for a vote, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we got a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Second.
Keep it as is what the motion is,
As is,
right?
And who
that's
seconded?
not.
Yeah, his motion is to keep the budget as it's already been approved.
Right, and I'm gonna
Is that
just
correct?
say, I would like to see it revisited in December, so.
well, yeah, but you gotta vote on this
Oh,
first,
So, yeah, I know.
okay?
I want the motion restated, and who made the motion in second, I didn't catch it.
Borough made the motion.
What he originally said or
Okay.
what you,
Let the auditor read it as it was written.
Yeah,
his discussion was the commissioners voted in, hired the superintendent, had faith in him. If not a full-time, lay her off, okayed once, lift the freeze to stay was Nick's question back to him. Chuck said her, Polly wants to revisit it in December, Chuck wants to revisit it in December, and then two people said keep it as is.
No, I'm sorry, that's not the motion. What was the motion?
He didn't that's what he said.
okay,
And then two comments were made.
okay, I'll make the motion to keep it just like it is, that we made the decision for him to hire.
That wasn't the last decision we voted on. You were saying at the decision of budget hearings.
Yes, at budget hearing.
So there's an open motion on the table now?
That's his motion.
I gotta be honest with you, it's not.
Is there a second? I'm sorry.
You seconded it?
I withdraw my second.
Oh, okay.
Okay, is there a second?
You know what, I'm telling you, we didn't get to this, Greg, but, you know, I got a ton of pushback, and the meeting after that, when we addressed this, is whenever I said that. I got a ton of pushback, and a lot of it was directed towards, are we taking more people out of this to put in the office? And I think that we need to explore the, contractor route, and if not, we can revisit, you know, putting it back in the budget. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we take it out.
Take it out of the
For the budget.
budget. Is there a second?
How would you handle the position that he gave us, Sandy? Would you?
So there's not the capacity for the $6,800?
Well, I mean, there is out of cash,
But there was a problem with cash.
yeah, there is, but you're gonna, instead of being left with, you know, 240,000, it'll be 232 or whatever, so.
But the budget will,
If you do a swap,
the budget will go on through. This is not
it's
one.
still, the budget is still acceptable according to the state.
I'm gonna make it, I'll second your motion, Andy.
So you're, okay. I just wanna make sure it's clear. So you're making the motion to take that,
And revert it back to the truck driver position.
okay,
And I'm calling for a vote.
okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those those abstain? How does that?
Motion passed.
It passes. 3-2-2.
Let's move on, please.
Okay, move on to the ARPA fund plan review and commissioner request. Have that in front of us. Just presenting that.
So the ARPA request is what was brought up at the last meeting concerning use of money for
We do not have
roads.
an ARPA plan at this present time, Anton.
Okay,
We have presented to you with the 500,000 for employees, which you chose not to do. We came back with another proposal, the same proposal, to pay off the highway grant debt that was created by the previous auditor, take care of the salary, payroll clearing, 500,000 for highway to give back to the taxpayers of this county, and the remainder for you to use the general fund as you pay that debt down. But it's a complete package. It's not pick and choose. It's all of that together is what was proposed by the commissioners.
so that's what you're proposing today.
That's the same thing that we proposed at your last meeting, yes. But you guys decided you only wanted to do half of it or pick and choose whatever roads. I think Andy said, 200,000 or something to that effect. I think Greg's got some citizens in here tonight that got a different opinion.
So I wanna understand this. So basically, and I wanna make sure that we, who's talking?
Taxpayer.
All right, so basically what I just heard is, although the commissioners and the council work in tandem, that whatever we say is the proposal, and we can't, there can be no adjustment made to that, basically.
The commissioners approved the proposal, represented that proposal for the taxpayers to you. You didn't accept all of that. So until we get what we put out on the table to begin with.
Okay, so yours is representative of taxpayers, but not ours.
I'm here representing them tonight. I don't know how you guys want to represent them. I'm trying to give them $500,000 for road repair. That's all I'm saying. We didn't get community crossings this year. We're probably not going to get it next year because we're not ADA compliant. That needs to be dealt with, but that's another issue.
You're encroaching.
So is there any action on that?
I don't know.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I, based on the parameters, I don't know what to say.
I'm just gonna throw this out here as a counter discussion. So I thought that we last approved, or at least we gave you the indication that we think it's important that we take care of the payroll clearing and that we take care of the community crossings debt.
But we presented it all as one plan and.
Right, and then, it came back and you could have modified the plan, but.
We did. We modified it from not using the 500 for raises and we put it back to the roads.
And that's great. I mean, I like that. So is that where we're at
That's
now?
where we're at.
Okay. I mean,
500,000, you guys get your.
there's still money left that's not used.
Yeah,
in all
and we
that.
just received another $100,000 that was put into the ARPA fund.
Right, and that's separate, by the way, but yes. Well, at the last meeting, the proposal was to basically tap more into that for additional road projects. Now, I am in favor of that, and I would like to see that done. But the majority of the council decided to hold that for another meeting, which is now, so.
And there was some misinformation as well. This money has to be spent by 2024, not 2026. The paperwork has to be filed by 2026. And we pay $30,000 a year for consulting. So we can drag this out for 2 more years and waste $60,000 of this money, or we can take care of this now and move on.
No, so my proposal was to try to do a little bit of both. So it was 500,000 split in the middle is what I proposed. I was also told, I think by each of you, that wasn't, that if we didn't do it last month, that it couldn't be done at all based on contracting or whatever. Is that not the point now?
We couldn't get the projects done before the end of the year, but we can still approve them and get these projects on the floor for spring.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
cause you're not gonna be doing those now, you know,
What
winter
are we
time,
gonna
yeah.
do? The asphalt plant shut down here in a couple of weeks.
Greg?
Let me give a little report what we've already been able to do with ARPA money, with the highway department. We have been, really successful over the last, year of getting some things done with the ARPA money that was approved. And if it was approved, tonight, we would get more projects done. Right now, we have 1 bridge completed, paid for out of ARPA. That's on Rocky Hill Road. We have 2 under contract right now, one on Franklin and the other one Wasatch Lake Road. We will be taking another bridge bid, Monday night. That would be ARPA on the original plan.
Which bridge?
That is the, bridge on Sand Hill Road. Then, we paved, arch gravel, ARPA. And then, we were able to do chip and seal, to preserve some milling roads. And I'm gonna have to do these by memory, guys, but, we did Wallace Junction, we did Stone Mountain, we did, Locust Lake, Timber Ridge,
Fall Creek.
yeah, both Fall Creeks,
One in Truesdale,
yeah, Truesdale and one,
one in Truesdale.
and one into Truesdale. Believe it or not, we've been able to stay pretty well in budget. We believe we're gonna be able to get this, bridge built. And with the original amount approved, I think, we will still be fine to get, Beth Sadia and, Beamer Station chip and sealed. It's been a great project. It's been a, really, good situation, for the roadways.
Which one were those 2 roads? Sorry, Greg.
Pardon?
Of those 2,
Sadia,
yeah,
we expect to do, and,
the other one?
Beaver Station.
Oh, Beamer Station, okay.
yeah, Beaver Station.
I'll tell you, I drove Hillcrest this past weekend and it's bad.
Oh, and, but also pine and pine wood were chip and seal.
Pine Wood, Pine Lake.
Yeah, Pine Lake. My proposal, the commissioners asked me to put a proposal together. I propose that we do Hillcrest subdivision, Orchard Heights, Farmers Road, and, Combs Road. It is what's in the proposal, and the commissioners have it, I can't give you the exact numbers. It comes in under $500,000, but with, the rate of some of the inflation, I would ask you, if you consider the highway department's part of this ARPA plan, to go ahead and approve the $500,000, for, any inflationary measures that may occur between now and the time that we're able, to lay it. We still don't know about community crossing this year, it's not been let. We will run into an issue next year with community crossing, because we're not ADA compliant. And, that doesn't fall under the highway department, unfortunately, council, that falls under, the county. You have to be ADA compliant, State of Indiana has been promised for the last 2 years that we've done, a community crossing grant, that we would become compliant. And, at this point, we have no, consulting firm to do that.
We do have one lined out,
Oh,
right?
but pardon me, that I didn't know, because it doesn't fall under me, but that needs to happen, it needs to happen relatively quickly, or we may miss out until that's done. But that's been something that's been a long time coming, but the other part of the ARPA plan, guys, I can't speak to. I would like to see the debt cleared, the old debt, so please consider that.
So the proposal is to claim lost revenue.
Yeah.
We're gonna, in a roundabout way, take care of those other funds.
It's all under lost revenue.
We're gonna put this additional money towards these road projects that have been outlined and included in our packets at the last meeting. That's not changed, subject to inflation over time. That's it, correct?
Everything else is the same.
That still leaves a balance of unused funds.
It's gonna leave roughly $500,000.
Of that 500, there's about 250 that's kind of dedicated for broadband / whatever.
No.
Or is that separate? Okay, so that's on top of, that's extra,
That's
okay.
in the last proposal, the first ARPA fund.
It's just not spent, but it is
We're
earmarked.
still listening to proposals. but
So there's about 500,000 that would be left unearmarked,
Yes,
that could be done for additional whatever, when the time comes.
or it could go back into general fund if you wish, by paying down general fund debt.
Got it.
That makes a difference.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept and approve the plan for what we outlined in the discussion here.
If you wanna touch base on it again, so we're all on the same
Okay.
page, you've got the highway,
We're gonna we're gonna do lost revenue. The whole thing's lost revenue.
correct?
But the intent of that is to then use an offset for the two negative funds, as well as the additional projects that were outlined in the proposal for Hillcrest, Orchard Heights, Farmers Road, and Combs Road. Is that correct?
I have an estimate of $500,000.
Yes. With inflation as needed
Right.
before it's late.
And there's 500,000 remaining that can be used at
At your
discretion.
discretion.
Burl seconded. So motion made by Anton, seconded by Burl. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
And that was what, 7-0?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Sheila, since we already did even though we didn't open the public hearing and all that, is that still okay?
You need to,
Do
just
the
need to
public-
do it again.
Okay. All right, I hereby open the public hearing for additional appropriations approval.
These appropriations that we advertised, or if they've already been advertised?
They've already been advertised.
Say once again,
It's the
please.
same.
It's the same ones, you made that motion, but it wasn't in a public hearing, so we have to
Redo the order.
have to revisit.
You and Nick.
So you wanna do your motion again?
Yeah, let's go ahead, I move that we authorize the following appropriations packet as presented.
Nick needs a second, doesn't he?
I second that.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor? Motion carried, okay. Public hearing closed. Okay. Additional appropriation requests?
That's
Are these have to be advertised, or they have also?
They have to be advertised. These
Thank you, I
do.
make a motion, we go ahead and authorize the auditor to advertise the following approaches: 3,600, 1690 from the prosecutor user fee to prosecutor equipment, $375 from county general fund for the circuit court interpreter, the line item was on there. $625 from fund name extension to the shortfall due to employee retirement payout, $250 from extension, again for the shortfall to the employee payout. And FICA, $1,500 state 911 PERF, appropriation from the 122 cash balance. the $6,000 state from statewide 911 for overtime, appropriate also from 112 cash balance. 400 from statewide 911 for FICA, 1222 cash balance. 12-cent transfer from Peace, you're kidding me, right? PSAP lit to PSAP lit payment. $4,600 from the probation general fund to the court general fund, and that is due to help cover the costs to train a new court reporter. About $352 for probation general to court general, and that was to help cover the cost for FICA, for the court reporter. $515 from probation general to court general, and this is to help cover the cost for perf to train the new court reporter.
There is a correction.
On ours, it's 37,3685. I think you had said what the original was, which is 36,1690, so.
I amend that first part to 37,3685.
They're together in your packets.
Thank you, I didn't see it, my apologies.
And there was $10,000 also in the adult probation.
If somebody just hand it to me right now, I'll add it. Cause I don't have it. What is it, $10,000?
$10,000 from adult probation.
From adult probation
to professional contracts.
professional contracts. Cause I don't have it.
I missed it, didn't say my transfer. I know we got my appropriation.
I second the motion that Chuck made.
All right,
A
so,
motion made by Chuck, seconded by Nick. Any other questions?
so basically what Chuck has done is he's put the appropriations and the transfers into one action.
Yep,
Put the
you're darn right. They can handle it, they know what to do. If you like me to amend the motion to include the transfers, I'll amend the motion, the transfers included in the motion so that they can be handled immediately, and those which require, advertisement are required.
Seconded by Nick. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, so that was the transfers as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm very sorry there,
We got our deposit.
I'm very
in.
sorry, Dan.
We borrowed $80,000 from vehicle rotation.
I'm sorry to say.
Jail housing,
Uh-huh.
vehicle rotation, the first year, we got our deposit in. We haven't, we can make that transfer tonight if we're gonna wait till December. But we did get the money, so I don't have the paperwork here, but we did get our deposit in.
Sheila, is that better? Sheila? Did you hear that?
Got the deposit in, they're doing the $80,000 transfer.
Sorry, keep yourself.
From the 4906 back to the 1175.
Yeah, it'll go back to jail housing, $80,000.
So do we need to make that in a separate motion? Make that
So moved.
second by Nick. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
40,000.
Okay. Care of patients.
Oh, wait.
Care of patients.
I don't know what that is, what is it?
This is the care of patients that is in the commissioner's budget. Donna can fill you in. It currently is $79,730 in the red. And there will be more added.
It could be more. Right now, we don't have any juveniles in detention. These are in juvenile detention. There's only $2,500, I think, put in there last year, and they used to be up to close to over 150. So there was just not enough put in for that to be useful.
Great, how much is the total?
$79,730.
What are our two options?
Riverboat,
How much?
how much is in Riverboat?
Yes.
More than that.
Wait, I was gonna say, there's enough in there to do it. I don't have your budget.
Yeah, it's, over here.
1191.
Donna, is any of this, subject to some grant money that we could refund?
Riverboat has 286,000.
If there's no disagreement, I'm gonna make the motion, we, use, what was the total, please, Tom?
79,730.
Thank you very much. From Riverboat, they take care of that one.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Does that have to be advertised, Sheila?
Yes, that'll be on your next agenda with the additional appropriations that Chuck just read also.
Okay, auditor policy waiver request, vacation and personal time.
I had gone to the commissioners meeting, was asking, for an extension due to staffing issues to have a 6-month extension, not a payout or a buyout for 2 of my staff members that are well above the balances that are allowed.
Okay.
And they said I had to come to the council because it was a financial, even though it's a commissioner policy.
Madam Chair, so what you're saying, Sheila, if we don't grant an extension, you have no way of letting them have that much time off, and they would lose it, is that what we're saying?
Per the policy, it's use it or lose it. There is no way to get them out of there in the next 6 weeks. I inherited a lot of this time they had on the books. We'll do our best to try to get them out of there. I'm just asking for 6 months.
Do you think in 6 months, you can actually work that down?
Probably not. It's gonna be too tough because one's a claims person, one's my front counter person. I had told you guys at the last meeting that I would probably be back to ask for a new employee first of the year. There's just no rotating them out. I have one person for each position. And I lost a position last year when we were trying to do the Paycor company for payroll, and I lost the position and we didn't get Paycor either. So again, still feel we're short-staffed, but right now I just wanna take care of these 2, cause I mean, I can let them both go for the next 6 weeks so that we won't have any claims done and nothing at the counter, but
Here's the thing.
we've tried.
Here's the thing, thank you for sending your documents out. There is a lot of offices that have people way out there. Now, if we make this motion, I can only imagine that it's gonna have to cover countywide, is that what, you know, or we can make it just for your office, but I know we'll be bombarded by some of
I
the
know
other
it's
offices.
opening a can of worms and a lot of the departments have tried their best. We don't have the availability to close our department down like some of them have been able to, or to rotate staff out. And I do know it's opening a can of worms, but I have to do something for my 2 employees also. This is the best option. Again, we're not asking to be bought out, we're just asking to have a 6-month extension. And they're still accumulating more time, unfortunately, you know, per
Will you be
policies.
able to come to an acceptable balance at the end of that 6 months? Because there's no use in doing it if they're still accumulating and it's still gonna be the problem. We're just kicking the can down the road. So can you ensure, and this is the leader side of it, can you ensure and be able to balance it to where it works?
I will make it work. I have to.
Then I'm gonna make a motion that we grant an exception to policy to let them do it in this one case, not as a, as you know, it sets a precedent, but this would be just an individual issue that we're allowing to happen.
Is it countywide?
No.
Just.
For 2 employees is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
For 2 employees in the auditor's office. And let me say this along with that. If this isn't a good idea, don't vote for it. I mean, she's saying that she's got a specific instance that we need to take action on. But if it doesn't work and it sounds like it sets a bad precedent, I'm okay with that a second. I understand.
I appreciate that. I personally, if you don't get a second, I personally would rather see it countywide.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nick. I really think that this is a tight bind, and I know this, someone's got to second it, sorry.
Madam President, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
So do
So if there is, there should be for everyone, in my opinion. And I know that some departments have done a lot of work to do it, some can't, some don't care. I mean, there's a variety of where different people stand on this particular issue. But I think we'd be wiser to allow everyone the benefit to help manage theirs. And I think that we need to make it clear that departments that are in the same boat need to get this rectified in that 6-month extension. I think that's the message we need to send, and I think that maybe the auditor's office can send a memo or a note to everybody about it as a result,
So
so.
that after 6 months,
Yes.
binding to 6 months.
Yes, that's what, I think we need to communicate that to everybody.
Good.
Yeah, I'm,
Second.
yeah, no, I'm not gonna second, I'm just gonna, if we're talking, then I'm going to say, you're opening up another Pandora's box. We went through this for years with people coming in front of us where we had to pay out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. There was a reason this policy was set. And I'm not being a dick, I'm being realistic. Folks, the policy was set. You either create the time, go home, take some vacation, and the county eats it because you're not there. But we cannot, if we open this Pandora's box, we're gonna see people come to us and hit us for $7,000. I think what the highest one we ever had was $9,000, around $9,000 because somebody had accrued so much PTO and so much vacation time. But there wasn't a policy that said, hey, you know, this has gotta stop. So when this policy came in, that's where we are today. And if you open that door, yeah, more power to you, I won't be here.
Well, what you say makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I think the sad thing is this was years in the making. I mean, that it wasn't, the policy wasn't enforced.
Yeah.
And
it's a tough
that's, it's being,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we cut staff last year, and we put these offices in a terrible shape to try to make them maintain and produce to the public and withhold all the, I mean, we, in some way, due to the economy and due to the fact that we got so far behind, we're part of this. Now, I know, Andy, you're right, we're open Pandora's box, what do we do? Chuck, you're right, I don't know where to stop it, but I know if I was working for an office and the boss couldn't let me off and they said to me, you're gonna lose that 400 hours, sorry, can't get nothing about it, the council just ruled. I don't know, I would be very upset over that. Sheila's lost an individual, we never gave her that individual back. I can see why her office is getting farther and farther behind. We've not got out of this crisis yet. So I don't know, I mean, go ahead, Jeff, I'm sorry.
No, it's your fine. I just wanna make sure I'm recognizing that so I can answer that. Here's the issue, folks. It's not so much that one office has done more than another, because there are times where that's the case. However, the moment you let that one office do it, you have just gone downhill. And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, you can hate me all you want, but there are tough decisions in business where you have to do it. I mean, go back. Anybody who's been here can go back in the records and look at how much money we had to pay out because somebody didn't take PTO, somebody didn't take vacation, somebody worked more hours than they should have. Go back. I will guarantee you, in my 12 years here, that number is well over $100,000. Well over $100,000.
You know, first of all, I think Nick is taking that into account. He's saying, yes, it's going to open Pandora's box, but it's a 6-month period for amnesty to get this thing knocked out. And then, but to your note, it's been, we're serious this time, everybody. No, we're really serious this time, everybody. And so
Yeah, I get both.
It's a difficult decision, but folks, that's why you're here.
Chris?
Some decisions.
Can I say that, I see what you're saying, and Andy and I have butted heads on this before. I've wanted to just buy my people out. I know back, you guys said it, you know, this is January 1 or December 31 is the cutoff, and guys, I've tried my butt off to get my guys worked down. Of course, you all know we've been short on staff. I came in.
Money.
Huh?
So big on money.
Yeah. But I came in Saturday night at 7 and went home today to eat supper with the wife. Haven't been back, of course, haven't been back home. Trying to get these guys off work because I know we're gonna lose hours. You know, I've, since Saturday, I put in 48 hours now.
So even at, it's even at a 6-month extension, you're saying that the policy just.
I'm whittling away a little bit at a time, trying to get those down. I guarantee in 6 months I'll be less than what I am today.
And that's good, but.
But,
Wow.
I mean, I can't send people home. I've got to cover them somehow. I can't send people home and run an ambulance down the road with one person in it. There's my limit, so I come in and work to cover those shifts.
Well, thanks for singling me out on the one bad moment.
What I'm trying to say is, I understand what you guys, the decisions that you guys have to make, and you and I have butted heads on it and talked about, well, I just want to pay them off, we can't do that because of this, and other people have told me the same thing, I understand those. But I don't think that people aren't trying to get, I know we are trying to get our numbers down, but,
Well, I think the.
I'm able to get where I need to be and don't see it happening by December 31st.
The original motion was withdrawn, and that was specifically giving 2 employees in the system an exception.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do anything, folks, it's gonna be give an exception, extend the benefit to everyone in the
I
system.
believe that.
Right, and that was.
And I didn't know others, I didn't know, I hadn't looked at it.
I'm gonna make a motion that we proceed in allowing the 6-month extension as presented, but not for the 2 employees, but for our entire system. And to reiterate that there is a policy, and it's a good opportunity to revisit that and look at your numbers and encourage people to use that, burn that down. That's my motion.
I'll second that. If you add, this is the only time we're doing this.
I'm not willing to,
I can't say.
I got a question. How long do you think it took to get these people in this amount of accrued PTO?
It's
A
been.
year, 2 years?
No, it's been a long time.
It's gonna take close to that to get it out of it. I agree with Chuck. I wouldn't wanna keep this, kicking this down, but you can't, this is a payroll, or this is a pay problem. You can't bring more people in, Sheila can't bring more people in, because we can't pay enough to get more people in here. So the people that are here are working and they can't leave.
Yeah,
they work.
I mean, this is,
it's kind of a vicious cycle.
it's a vicious, yeah. I do think that this is gonna take longer than 6 months. I was here when
There was a motion, though, we
got
need a second.
said that we had to cut this off, and I don't know how you could do it with some of the people with 600 and 700
I'll
hours.
second your motion, if it hadn't been second.
Oh, motion's on the floor, Anton, and seconded by Nick. Anybody else wanted to?
We've got some people in these offices that are specialized. Sheila, well, clerk's office, maybe, I don't know. They're specialized. And once they don't have extra help, and it could get worse, because when these people take the vacation time, it's like a catch-22. When I was in the clerk's office, I'd let a lady off for a couple of days, only to find out that we was 2 days behind in her job. When she'd come back, she either had to try to make up those 2 days, and it didn't happen, so you'd get comp time. I mean, you just build it up. It was a, yeah. So I don't know, unless you get the offices healthy again, where we got staff in there that are cross-trained and they're taking care of vacations and sick days and comp time, and you shouldn't have comp time. And you should let them take their sick days and vacation time, but, you know, she was short of a person, and I want to tell you, come the first year, I'm gonna make a motion that we give her person, because
That's the only way she's gonna get the comp time
that's
down.
the only way she's gonna balance out her office, it's not healthy. I'm sorry.
Well, and you know, there has been significant improvement on comp time balances. That has been great, but at the expense of vacation or, you know, PTO and those not being able to be used because they're using the comp time. So it's just.
Madam Chair,
I'll call for a vote.
All those in favor for a 6-month extension?
And so Anton didn't add.
Hold on, we're still taking a vote.
All those opposed?
Abstentions? Yes, that would be me.
But Anton, we took the vote, but you didn't add,
6-month extension for the entire system.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, he did, he
Yes,
said
he
the
did.
entire county system. You're good. You're a good man.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the salary confirmation summaries as presented.
Motion made by Anton,
Second.
well.
Oh, you got me,
Anton
didn't you?
seconded. All those in favor? All right, motion carried.
Motion to ignore the rest of this thing and go home.
Elected officials, department head. Chris.
If I can just clarify what I said, I wasn't necessarily pointing him out, I'm just saying.
I'm kidding you,
I
listen.
agree with what you guys are saying, I know the hard position that it creates you guys to be in, but also we're, in our
Chris, we've never had any problems that.
Is this yours?
I don't know.
We gotta tell you this.
That's all I got.
Alrighty, any public comments?
Yeah, several. First of all, this meeting has somebody sniffling by the mic. So if you listen to the live stream, you guys hear. Pretty much through the whole meeting. So maybe we could work on it. Anton, are you able to project your screen up there?
Yes, we
maybe if
are,
we
but it was the WOW system and we knew we weren't bringing anything up tonight in the WOW.
Well, it would be nice to have what Anton is looking at up there.
I don't even have one.
Yeah,
Anton was looking
what I'm looking at is
Yeah.
my email and my
If
documents,
it's
so.
projected up there, you could look at it.
Not off of his
Yeah,
computer.
it'd be whatever she has that needs to be projected, not what I have. So,
I'm not sure I agree with that. But moving along. When Tim Berry made his presentation, and when he tried to explain the need for a county manager, you cut him off, okay? And said, this isn't what we want. Because basically it was acknowledging this group had failed horribly for 5 years. And the Crow report is a roadmap into it. What Barry wanted to suggest was a county manager, a professional manager, who would be available Monday through Friday, who had authority to call the commissioners individually. So we weren't having all these Gary Burton, Bob Curry secret meetings. So the ability to get confirmation from commissioners, if necessary, confirmation from, this was baked into the Crow report. And it didn't go any further. The need is still there. You don't have an HR person. You can make a decision right here and have to come right back to it 6 weeks later, because you don't have an enforcement Okay, you can say, okay, we're gonna do this, but then the minute you don't do it, it just unravels. Don't have a hammer. So, hark back on Jim Bear, you might even listen to his presentation.
We don't have the funds for a manager. We don't have the funds to give the proper amount of raises we need to give, Victor.
If you can pay $13,333 for a part-time attorney, okay? Basically serving one commissioner's interest, because he's got a second commissioner that's gonna rubber stamp anything. You can afford a county manager and you will save money. Especially if you have a true professional. Now, I was involved in a city in California where we always had a city manager. Some were really good, some were not. The joke was, they were hired enthusiastically and fired enthusiastically, you know, when their time had come. But the cute thing of it is he was empowered. So I said, well, Charlotte, how are we doing? He said, well, it's kind of like shopping carts in a grocery store. We're not getting anything solved yet, but we're getting the right things into the right shopping carts, and we can move them around, and at some point we should start being able to solve stuff. So a true municipal manager could benefit, you're gonna save money. I mean, if you can spend $13,333 every month for a horseshit attorney, you'll get a city manager, a county manager for less than that.
No, it won't. No, it won't. Because a county manager would be a full-time position. The attorney is not a full-time position. That's what we have on retainer for him. You haven't even seen what it's gonna cost the county when he actually has to do something.
Well, you actually have two sets of attorneys. You've got one attorney for the comprehensive plan. I think that's, what, $295 an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
No, I'm telling you, that's why we don't have any money for a county manager.
And now you've got Kerr, Burton's personal attorney. You know, the shit show never
Madam
ends.
Chairwoman, we need to either install a minute counter or something.
Baron,
Yeah,
can we
we went too
make it
far.
quick?
Well, I have my.
I understand what you're
Tired.
The only thing I want to address is the issue on the county roads. And to me, after I listened to everybody, to me, from a public standpoint, I believe it's very simple. This is my opinion. What you do is you hire an outside firm, you shop around. And what they do is they GPS all the roads, they mark them down, private road, you know, unusable, usable, whatever, okay? And they put it on a report. And you take the report, after they're done, you give it to the county commissioners vote certified that that's the real deal. Now you take that piece of paper that has been certified, give it to the county highway department and say, here's the proof, right? From this consulting company and from our county commissioners, right? To give to the state so we get the right amount of money for the appropriations. And that's my solution to the problem. Make it as simple as you possibly, just going back in records back in 1956, looking about the minutes and notes for hours and hours, it's a waste of money. You bypass all that shit. Just go, here's what we've got, this is what they've got. He goes to the county commissioners, they say, yeah, we like it, okay? And then it goes to the highway department, he gets a hold of the state, the job's over.
Any other public? Jeff?
Jeff Marks, Morgan Township. I've got a couple of quick comments, and I'll make them quick. That's not right.
We got an extra hour.
Wow. My first comment is, I like the idea of having our salaries adjusted properly in terms of the relationship to the mean point around it. I like that. I do think that this county needs to recognize that as much as we like that idea, we also like our best services delivered the best way possible. Okay? Now, if when I called the sheriff, nobody came, I wouldn't be very happy. When I called the
Well,
sheriff.
said you did call me, I didn't show up.
No, oh, did you put that on Facebook? No, seriously, I called the sheriff, nobody came, I did that. Sheriff always comes. Chris always comes. Chris actually was in my house 6 weeks ago, or 2 months ago or something, on a Sunday afternoon. So, I understand the desire to sort of normalize everything, but the desire of the people is to have roads that work, to have GMS that works, to have the sheriff that works. That's the desire of the people. And so if you have to make some adjustments, fine. Second comment, I'll stop. I'll make another second comment is this. Anton does a wonderful job at the legislative breakfast every month. I would encourage all 7 of you and all 3 commissioners to show up at one of those.
I do.
And as you've been there, I've seen it, but I want all of you there, because this road funding crud is a problem. And Anton's been talking about this forever. Holly, I keep talking about it some. They're all 10 of you showed up and said, you gotta do something about motor vehicle highway, you gotta do something about city streets and roads. They might go, why are you all here? And maybe they'd think about it. Maybe not. But I encourage you to get there and do it, because we're gonna keep grinding away on this road thing until we actually fix the real funding problem, because we don't have it. So, and also, I agree with Victor that, but I do agree with Victor that at some opportunity, you need to look at a county manager. The last thing I'll say is, and I'm gonna embarrass her, you need to find some way to get Sheila some help.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's probably why she's not staying.
Chuck, you're falling behind.
I'm falling? Can I get up?
The adjournment,
Adjournment?
what are we talking about? You're always beating us to the draw there.
I thought we still had 2 things on the list.
I hear next year there's a curfew at 9:30.
Turn your alarm clock.
Thanks, guys.
You think Eli's still flying around here?
Holly, sometime when you give me a call.
That basketball game?
Gamer Station Road, Doug on the community that his budget, they've already.
Okay, Sheila, I got a question.
And they just did, Sheila.
Sorry, I was making room for you.